time to forge the narrative.
Hey everybody, welcome to Forge the Narrative. My name is Paul, your host. I'm joined tonight by Goat Boy Thomas Reedy.
Why, hello. I'm back on Forge the Narrative and my voice is good.
And Adam Camilleri, the Duke of Down Under, the Bulletproof Lover. Welcome.
Hello, babes and babettes. It's me.
I don't know if I'm supposed to still keep making up nicknames for you.
Please do. They're hilarious.
We are the Battle Lost Souls podcast. We're going to talk about the greater good. Is it good for the game?
Well, it is greater for the game, but is it good?
I think any kind of extra rules that adding to anything will always be good for the game. So I'm always excited for new stuff to look at and write about instead of me making another Lord of Skulls list over and over again.
Oh, we should talk about that a little bit. This is going to be
yes.
a jam-packed show. I've got some community spotlight segments to insert. I've got an interesting finishing move segment, if we don't talk ourselves to death with the greater good, that I'd like to talk about. It's about adhesives and the trials and tribulations of there not being enough information out there about what to use for what, and I'm going to share some things if we get that far. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Please leave us 5-star reviews. It means a whole lot. Comment on the stuff wherever you see it. Thank you very much for listening, everyone, and coming along this journey with us. I want to jump in and start talking about the Guard. The Guard. So there's more in this book. There's more in the greater good than I actually expected. I wasn't sure quite really. I guess I should know what to expect, but there is a ton of things in here for different armies. And the Guard, who I think are already contenders, already have a lot of legs, get some more stuff, some stuff that's actually got me wanting to put tanks on the table again.
Yeah, it's very similar to where Eldar was at. You know how Eldar they didn't need a whole swathe of new rules to bring them up to being contenders again. The Guard's been knocked out of like the top band of competitiveness since the advent of things like GSC. Somewhat GSC and Orcs, but even more now that Marines have become really prevalent. I don't think they need a lot to come back, in a huge way. So I'm hoping it's this.
So just a quick high level, and we can dig in deeper, is that you can now make your own regiment. You get regimental doctrines, same things we've seen the other things. You pick 2 things. So that in itself gives you a little bit more, I guess, modular things you can do. There are some interesting things there. But the big thing that's got me excited is this Tank Ace rule.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's like in lieu of Warlord.
Yeah, so the Tank Ace, it's if an Astra Militarum character is your Warlord, rather than determining a Warlord trait for that model, you can instead select one Tank Ace ability for an Astra Militarum vehicle without the Brood Brothers keyword. But the Tank Ace then it's got different kind of categories. So there's one for the Leman Russes, there's one for the support tanks, which is the Basilisk, Wyvern, Hydra, Manticores, and Death Strikes, and then the Titanic stuff, so the big Baneblade type chassis. You then get a stratagem that allows you to select a Tank Ace if you want. So you could either give up your Warlord trait on your Warlord. It's very interesting that the tank does not become the Warlord. That dude is still your Warlord. He just is absent of a trait. And then you can purchase with a 1 CP the Tank Ace that would allow you to take another tank. The first thing I went to do was go and look and see if there was a way, if there was a stratagem that allowed you to purchase like additional Warlords for the Astra Militarum, and they don't have one of those.
That's interesting, because that seems to be almost a standard plugin for virtually every other faction they've done this for. They've got another option for a Warlord. So I suppose this is more akin to this feels like it's more akin to Exarch powers, but not quite.
Well, like you saw it in some of the Chaos stuff, not all the Chaos stuff. So some of the Legions got an extra Warlord trait. So it's really weird how they're controlling it. Not every army is going to get this stuff. And then this Tank Ace thing is much of it. Making sure I got this right. Nothing said anything about duplicating the Tank Ace ability.
Yeah, I think you can have multiples of the same thing. 2 of the same thing. 2
of the same thing. Because there's one I like. I do enjoy the more protective-based one. So I was like, this could be very interesting.
I guess let me tell you, the Tank Ace, it specifically says you can only use it once per battle. So you couldn't just double it. It's a pregame thing, but you can't use it as much as you want.
Right. So what you end up doing is that you could have up to 2. That's pretty much where you're looking at it. The cool thing is it's you have each type of tank gets a different type of tank ace, which is what's a lot more interesting, and I kind of find to be one of the neater things aspect of it. Like, okay, so obviously it's more akin to the rules like you have the support tanks. and how they interact. You have even the super heavy tanks and how they interact, which so I think it's pretty interesting.
I think there's some clear winners and losers here. I think that there are some that you're not going to pick at all, and there's things that you will always pick. And Thomas, you were just mentioning that you maybe like the defensive ones. There's an up armored for our Legion Russes that give them a 2+ save.
Oh, 100%. That's the one I'm like, you have a so spicy.
Well, because one of the best tanks for guard right now is the Demolisher. But the problem with the Demolisher is the range now, because it's only 24 inches. But a lot of people have been trying to get workarounds like that, like outflanking you with Talan or Move Shoot Move, or taking its Destroy, so it gets plus 6 inches. But now, if you just got a 24-inch Catachan one, you can go, all right, well, it's going to be -2 to hit because it's going to shoot then pop smoke, and I've got a -1 to hit power on it. I've got the +1 to hit power on it, and it's got a 2 up, so it's going to be -2 to hit with a 1+ save with toughness 8 and 12 wounds. That sounds a lot better to me.
But you're hearing all the things. You hear all the things. You're like, where I was like very excited when I saw it. I was like, that is super good.
The other one that jumps out to me is the Weapon Expert, which has improved the armor penetration characteristic of a turret weapon. This model is equipped with by an additional, or by 1. So something that was AP 0 then becomes AP -1.
I know what you're pointing to. What gun you like? The one you roll a lot of dice for, and you're like, ugh.
The Punisher. I mean,
I know.
It's not even just in the shooting phase. It's just the armor penetration characteristics. So things like defensive gunners, and you're getting a lot of mileage out of this one.
There's the Armored Rush one, the one that lets you shoot if you advance. I mean, if you want to get Demolisher to work, there's one right there for improved Demolisher.
Yeah, that's a big deal as well. That'd be fantastic.
So it's in your shooting phase. Yeah, sorry, Adam. The model can shoot with turret weapon. It is equipped with, even if it advances this turn.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but see, which one you pick?
How would that work with the tank order to move in advance a second time? So you move in advance, and then usually you'd order yourself to move in advance again. Would you then get to shoot? So you move in advance, then shoot, and then move in advance again? That'd be an interesting thing to look into.
I mean, you should be able to, based on the rule of the fact that it's not changing how you advance or anything else. So by the rules, you're just advancing. It just means you get a double advance. Just like, when you warp time someone that can advance and charge, they advance and charge. And just double. So it would be the exact same thing, which is, like what you said, it's like, this is pretty interesting. You're like, yeah, this is super interesting.
Because from a strategic point of view, one of the best things you can do in a game against like a horde army is safely get a Punisher into the middle of the board. This is a way of doing that. And all of a sudden you create this big denial bit where you're like, I double dare you to walk like 20 orc boys into this. I double dare you. Please. I paid all these points for this model. I want to shoot it.
And you will shoot it.
Well, that's the whole thing. Is like, I want to get this done. I mean, Lord, every time I look at this, is like, why don't I have some for my Renegade guys? I want some Renegade tanks. But I can't get it because I only play bad guys usually.
Another defensive one, and by the way, we're only talking about the stuff for Leman Russes right now. But we'll get to the support and super heavies in a second. But there's
there's ones for artillery and super heavies. My God.
Yeah. And so the Master Mechanic is a Leman Russ strategy or Leman Russ ability. When resolving an attack made by a ranged weapon against the unit, reduce the damage characteristic of that weapon by 1 to a minimum of 1 for that attack. So you make it a Wave Serpent.
Oh, wow. I love that, actually.
So, I mean,
it's exciting. Like, they're neat rules. They're good.
And you get to choose these at the start of the game.
That's exactly what I was saying. It's a Warlord trait. So you choose it when you choose your Warlord, or when you would choose that trait. So I think you get to kind of like be, I guess, strategic with it.
And utilize strategery.
Strategize.
Yeah.
It's the technical term, isn't it?
I mean,
but
roll up.
Like you rock up against a player who's got a bunch of D3 damage guns. This thing becomes incredible.
Yeah, these Leman Russes, I mean, it really is one of those, the longer they're on the table, I mean, this is dumb to say, but the longer they're on the table, the better they are.
Yeah, absolutely. The more chance they have of killing all the things that can kill them.
Yeah, so I really like the offensive stuff. I'm more of an offensive player, but it's kind of hard to deny the power of these. The neg 1 damage, I think, is amazing, and then the 2-up save is pretty amazing.
And thank God it's not an aura. Hey.
Yeah. So the support
you don't
aces,
need that anymore.
There's one that just I think is alarmingly good, and this is the full payload. This is do not roll to determine the damage characteristics of weapons this model is equipped with. They have the maximum values, e.g. a weapon with the damage characteristic of D3 inflicts 3 damage.
Yeah, now this is very interesting for things like Manticores, but probably more interesting for things like Basilisks. So you can put quite a few layers of buffs on Basilisks to make them pretty good, like double shooting, ignores cover, rerolls to hit. So being able to just add this whole layer of efficiency on top of it, like the flat 3 damage Basilisks, I'm not sure. This is just always, isn't it? This is every time, no matter as many times it shoots.
Yeah, many times it shoots.
You take it as Catachan, and you get to reroll the amount of shots you get. So hopefully you get close to the 5 or the 6. You shoot it twice for 2 CP with a specialist attachment. You spend 2 CP to reroll to hit. So it's a lot of CP put into this.
Well,
but
I don't even think you need the reroll to hit because you got Harker nearby or something for the reroll 1.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, or if you wanted to take it as Catachans instead, you can get +1 to hit.
Well, Harker is Catachan. I'm saying like there's a.
Oh, sorry, I said Cadian. I was supposed to say Cadian. My bad. Or Vestroyan. There's a lot of different ways you can get meaningful like offensive buffs. And geez, flat 3 damage when you don't need line of sight and you ignore cover and you're already -3 and strength 9. It's sassy, it's sexy, it's good.
You got it. I mean, and then all the chaos is something you see out there. So, Vengeance for Cadia and stuff. I mean, you're getting all kind of buffs to throw at people.
Yeah, Vengeance for Cadia is still insanely good.
Yeah. It also works on death strikes too. So, I mean,
Is there actually variable damage in death strikes? I thought they just did mortal wounds.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Look at you knowing the rules.
But it's also okay. But the target unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Like that's the damage.
So you just like, hey, I'm already gonna like give you 20 mortal wounds, but here is a D3 more. Suck it.
I guess that wouldn't count as max damage. That's what I was thinking. That after resolving the damage. So here's how the death strike. This weapon can target units that are not visible to the bearer. Each time you hit the target with the weapon, it suffers a mortal wound. After resolving all damage on the unit, roll a D6 for every other unit within 6 inches of the target unit. On a 4+, that unit also suffers D3 mortal wounds. This probably doesn't make it 3.
Yeah, because way Mortal's wounds work, they're just each its own separate thing. I know this because I do a lot of mortal wounds with chaos and other stuff, so it's just always just a separate. So there's no real damage reduction or damage change. It's just like you take this many mortal wounds, which is I'm with you. I was like, why doesn't it work?
Well, we'll put that on the fact watch.
Because it also lists wyverns in this as well, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah.
But wyverns can probably be given other ones more meaningful because they don't have variable damage.
So the wyverns. So there are two. I mean, there are 2 other traits in here. I just think the full payload is the best, obviously because
me too.
Max is good. Shatterer of Will in the shooting phase. After you have resolved all the attacks made by the model, select one enemy unit that any of those attacks scored a hit against. Until the end of the turn, subtract 2 from the leadership characteristic of that unit. So if you fire twice, with things.
Yeah. I'm already getting a few, that already brings some other things up. There's some Tempestus, there's a Militarum Tempestus trait that lets you, for every guy you kill, it counts as 2 dead. So all of a sudden there's another way to manipulate morale mechanics.
Well, spoiler alert. I'm just kidding. Here we get
save that for the other part of it. Good.
Oh gosh. Then let me go down my rabbit holes. Let me enjoy my rabbit holes.
I will. But so it's remember. The important thing there is each unit. So I mean.
Yeah, so you can shoot the bloody heavy bolter on the front of it.
It's select one enemy unit that any of those attacks score to hit against. So
but I mean, you could shoot the Quake mortar at something you can't see, and then there's 10 Gretchen in front of you. You just shoot your heavy bolter in, you kill 2 of those. All of a sudden, they lose 4 more guys to morale. They would maybe lost 1 guy to morale. That's cool.
Yeah. The next one is well-stocked magazines. When rolling to determine the type characteristic of a ranged weapon this model is equipped with, you can re-roll any or all the dice.
That's nice. That's quite nice, actually.
What do you think? What do you think this applies the best to?
Wyverns, for sure.
Yeah.
So that means you don't bother taking him as Catachan, obviously. But that opens you up to being able to take him as all the other good ones. Like, I mean, if you want to be on the move, you take Talan. If you want to hunker down, you want to have the +1 to hit and the extra range, you take Destroyin. If you want to get the overlapping fields of fire, +1 to hit, and your Vengeance for Cadia, and the Relic of Lost Cadia, you go Cadian. So yeah, that opens up. That's really good. I like that a lot.
Yeah. The next category is super heavy aces, inspiring might. When a morale test is taken for a friendly Astra Militarum unit within 6 inches of the model, roll 1 additional d6 and discard 1 of the dice. I don't like that so much.
If morale was so much more important to this game, the way this game works now is like when you shoot something, you kill it, right? So there's not really when's morale happening? Very rarely. There's a few things that can do funky stuff with it, like you talked earlier with Militarum, where you're doing a bunch of -1, -2, and stuff like that all over the board. So then morale makes it, but for the most part, morale is like either you're fearless or that unit's exploded.
Well, yeah, there's a funny thing, like the morale interactions are supposed to hinder all these horde armies and stuff, but all the horde armies that people build will have ways that they don't care about morale. Otherwise, the horde armies aren't viable. So, whenever this would actually matter, they're most likely going to be fearless anyway. I mean, what are you shooting a Baneblade at that's it's not wiping off the board anyway?
Well, this is defensive. So it's, when things are, the Baneblade is an awe-inspiring thing, which allows you to buff out the things around you. But I think that either, like, to your point, or y'all's point, is dead, or you're going to burn the 2 CP if you need it to live, or you just don't care.
Right. Well, there's also the guard one for 1 CP to take a morale check on D3, which I do more than the auto pass. I do that pretty much like every turn I was playing guard.
Yeah, especially for the big fatties and stuff too.
Mm.
So hold down deployment. This model receives the benefit of cover until the first time it moves in the battle.
I like this one a lot. Like I get for the same reasons I like the +1 save on the Lehman Russ one. Like you usually when you deploy a Shadow Sword or something of that ilk, you're betting you're not moving it again for at least 2 or 3 turns. Like, you're deploying it where it's got good field to fire. But I can tell you right now, I played Triple Baneblade for quite some time, and I'm guessing Thomas, who just played Lord of Skulls, can attest to this. Getting cover on a thing with that footprint is really hard. Really, really hard.
Oh, yeah. You sit there never, and when you do, you're like, ha, 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 fooled you.
It's like, yeah, you're so happy. You're so proud of yourself. You're like, finally, my day has come.
I think if you're taking one of these, you are also going to be taking the Primaris Psychers to give it the -1 to hit, +1 armor save. So this is just extra insurance that your 500-point model lives to turn 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But we know, like, if it's exactly the same as Lehman Russ's, the longer they stick around, the more likely they are to stick around. Like, if they get picked up.
Yeah, Titanic things don't get the benefit of prepare positions.
Exactly right.
So you're getting you're getting something that you would not normally have with the CP investment.
And like I said, the fact that it's not just a first turn thing is if you don't move, which is, I mean, a lot of these things aren't necessarily needing to move right away anyway. So it's like you get it more than 1 turn. That's a huge benefit.
Yeah,
massive.
Things like the Stormlord with 60-inch murder guns. You just get to kind of post up. Oh, this is making me feel good about like the 3 Stormlords.
The other thing, so you're paying 1 CP for this trait, yeah?
No, you can get the tank ace in absence if you give up the Warlord trait for your Warlord. And then you can pay 1 CP to get another tank ace if you want. Or just pay 1 CP to get a tank ace and keep your Warlord trait.
You just got to ask yourself the question, would I pay 1 CP per turn, just per turn, to give a Shadow Sword +1 save? Would I pay 1 CP to give it cover? You would, yeah?
Yeah, you probably would, yeah.
You probably would pay a CP. This is 1 CP for the whole game if you don't move. That's value, like, to me. That rings the value bell. Ding, ding, ding. I just invented the value bell, but it's going to ring from now on. Ding, ding, ding.
So I need a soundboard. We need some sound effects. And
I agree with you. I think that's the whole aspect, is that the fact that you have, you're investing 1 CP and you can get the whole game, and it's your decision to turn it off. Opponent's not turning off. You are making the decision to turn it off when you need to at the most, which I think gives a lot of power.
Yeah, but that's exactly right. But even if you only do it for 1 turn, you're like, well, I would have paid 1 turn for cover anyway. So,
well, you're also, before we get too crazy, you are still getting absolutely barbecued by Imperial Fist.
It's true. That's true.
You get to choose something else.
Hey,
roll up against them.
Everybody's getting barbecued by Imperial Fist, so it doesn't matter.
But you get to choose something else at that point. Maybe you don't.
Wasn't it weird we didn't see any Imperial Fist in the top? There was no Imperial Fist in the top 8, right?
No, they didn't make it. It was Iron Hands and Raven Guard.
You can shift away from them, so that's why I think they did not do as well in long term, because you obviously see what they can do, and you just choose a different list if you plan on encountering them, and so it was easy for the other list to surmount them. But the topic version.
Well, you look at the lists that really did well. If there were infantry based Iron Hands and infantry based Raven Guard. So neither of them were Imperial Fist's target anyway. People were just like, oh yeah, Imperial Fist exists. Well, I guess I'm stupid to take anything that is killable. So you take one unkillable thing, the Leviathan, and everything else is infantry. And bada bing, bada boom. Like, it turns out that was enough to keep him out of the top 8.
The next trait here is the Steadfast Leviathan. If your army is battle-forged, this model gains the regimental doctrine of its regiment, even if it is in a super heavy auxiliary detachment.
This seems pretty good.
Maybe since I'm so Catechin focused, I don't see how this applies to me.
You're saying you like muscle bros is what you're saying?
Look, man, who doesn't like a bunch of Rambos running around the table and slick loading basilisk and wyverns?
It's true. I do.
The unit that makes no sense for the army. You're like, why do I like these random weapons? Don't worry about it. It's Catechin. Don't worry about it. How can they even get into the jungle? Don't worry about it. Just quit thinking.
You got all the flamers to burn the path for them to drive the big tanks through that they use their big muscles to load. It's very simple. I don't understand why you don't get it.
It's like, I understand the flamer aspect. It's like, look, I understand the random nature of the flamer aspect, but obviously, this wasn't. So when someone did this and made these rules, you're like, you didn't quite think of where it's going to be heavily shown up. If you would have told me that Catechin was the best tank thing in the game, I would have been like, no.
You can make a case for Cadians and that kind of, and other stuff too. Like we saw some Talar and like some really shifty things to do with those guys. But that's it. Those are the tank aces, and I think that's a pretty meaty chunk of rules. I think that really these couple of pages here, the thing you could get for actually free, like the Warlord traits in the Guard are good though. I mean, there are some real winners in the Warlord traits for Guard.
Oh, there's always been a bunch of really strong Warlord traits. I mean, it was. I remember a distinct time in the landscape of 40k when every single Imperium player had their Loyal 32 and they had their Grand Strategist Warlord.
Yeah.
For their Loyal 32. And then you couldn't get 1 million CP back per turn. You can only get 1, and everyone discovered that Old Grudges exists and lost their minds all over again. Old Grudges is fantastic, especially in this current meta.
Let's read Old Grudges real quick. After deployment, before the first battle round begins, choose a unit in your opponent's army. You can reroll failed wound rolls for Astra Militarum units from your army that target the unit you choose whilst they are within 6 inches of your Warlord. So I think that has a place today, like you just said. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So you're spending that 1 CP for your tank ace.
Yeah, well, it's like it's phenomenal. I mean, it's one of those things Old Grudges, I remember losing a Stompa to Lasguns. Because of Old Grudge.
No one's surprised though, because the Stompa is terrible.
So was this a 1,500 point Stomper, a 1,000 point Stomper, a 700 point Stomper? Where in the timeline of 40k did this Stomper occur?
This is a 8th edition 700 or 700 something point Stomper. Like 7 something. So I was like, all right, this game is officially done, but I'm laughing. It's a fun. It's on screen.
But hopefully it blew up. Like hopefully it took some things with it.
It did not. Oh. It had gotten up halfway up the board because it had taken so much lasgun damage that it could barely move.
There is I will, as a guard player, say one of the most satisfying things you can do is get a knight down to like 2 wings left and then start first rank, second rank firing into it. Like, it is just...
See, everyone says that it's never going to happen. It's only a 1 in 48 chance or whatever.
It happens, man.
But it happens all the time. We play the improbable happens regularly.
I remember sitting there with a Pask and a Plasmacutioner, and I have him to shoot still into this 2-wound knight. And I'm like, nah, the Lasguns have got this. They've got it, boys. Off you go. And I did. I killed it. with the Lasguns. It was terrible. It was awful. I feel bad, but I don't.
You shouldn't feel bad. Anytime you lose it with a Lasgun, you're like, well, you know what? Some kid was cured of some terrible disease because the math worked out for me. Yeah, that's right. Math went wrong.
We just, after you can point so many flashlights at something. Like, eventually you're gonna blind it, it's gonna stumble.
You'll nick a cable.
The guy's just gonna have an aneurysm or something.
There's exposed cables on that night.
Yeah, but a torch doesn't go through a cable that way. You gotta go for the sensors. They're flashlights, baby. It's flashlights and paper mache. That's all the guards got.
And t-shirts. They were really good skin tight t-shirts.
I love to this day that the t-shirts get the same save as the Carapace armor, or not Carapace armor, but the Cadians, like their stormtrooper armor.
Dude, I just love, you got a Cadian who's literally like, he's wearing a cardboard box, But he thinks that stuff is watertight, airtight, volcano tight. It's brilliant. And then you got a Catachan who's literally just wearing a muscle vest, like a muscle tee, and he has the same save as the other guy. He's just literally just wearing a vest.
That's the faith in the Imperium that gets you
So good.
that 5+.
It's always is this? Are we looking at reality in this game? Don't think about this game. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Look, we're going to take a quick break.
It's okay.
I'm going to have a community spotlight segment. Then we're going to come back with us talking about more stuff, probably more guard stuff, and we might transition into that Tempestus Scion stuff.
Oof, yes, please.
See you all in a minute.
FTN is brought to you by Discount Games Inc. Please visit them at www.discountgamesinc.com. And don't forget to ask Jay about ways to save even more on your hobby projects.
Hey everybody, welcome to a community spotlight segment on Forge the Narrative. My name is Paul. I'm joined this evening by Josh Diffie.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Yo man, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Thanks for joining me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. What do they say? Long-time listener, first-time caller?
Well, people may recognize your voice because you're part of the Down Under Network.
That's correct, yeah. So I've been streaming with Adam Camilleri for the last year and a bit. And I know Adam's been a fairly regular special guest, I believe, on the show.
Yeah, working on getting him coming on more regularly, but I was just got to spend some time with him. First time I met him out there in Vegas, at least met him face to face a couple weekends ago.
He's got energy, I'll give you that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Talking about, that is good. So nice to have him on the show. He's got his wealth of knowledge. But he, through him, he told me about some stuff that you were doing.
Yeah, so Adam and I have been partnering with both on a couple of projects. One of them being our streaming content, which hopefully some of the listeners have seen. If they haven't, you can do a quick search on YouTube. Pretty much all of our content's up there at Down Under Network. And also a pairing system that's been going since... Oh, geez, that's a good question. I probably should have been a bit more prepared on that one. I think its inception started back in 2014. Not sure exactly what date it went live. I'm going to have a quick look. But, it's been around a while, and and it's something that we're very proud of. It does a bit more than just pairings, but yeah.
Well, I've recently been exposed to it as I was looking for a solution for the tournament series that I've been running called the Armageddon series. And so I was looking for something that could house the tournament itself, the event itself, people can track it and score things and move along through the event. But also, maybe actually give some info on the players themselves, like after enough things got ranked in there. And I know that you're a big consumer of data. Like I know that you also check out things like 40k stats and Best Coast pairings and that kind of stuff. But that type of data, it's just data. And I think you kind of built something that's a companion to all that.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I guess that's where I mean it's a bit more than just a pairing system. So Down Under Pairings started as the name suggests. It's a pairing system. We do all kinds of different game systems. So 40k, Age of Sigmar are the two most popular, but pretty much happy for it to work on anything. Pretty much any format. So ITC, ETC, although I'm assuming that's going to be called WTC. There's a lot of acronyms that get thrown around on the internet. So,
lots of T's and C's.
Lots of T's and C's. So most people know the ITC, but just in case they don't know the ETC, European Team Championship, which is now the World Team Championship.
Yeah, talk about some crazy times we live in.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I mean, the tournament coverage we're seeing, current day and age of tabletop is absolutely insane. The stuff you guys did at LVO was on point. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
But so we started on that, and then we're getting asked lots of questions, like because we track a little bit more data than most of the other tournament pairing systems out there. Not on all tournaments, because some tournament organizers don't want it. So, for example, we have a tick box that a tournament organizer can tick on or off, which says track turns. So basically, if that's ticked, then players have to say how many turns they played, and also have to say who went first. But some tournament organisers want the score sheets to be just like one entry box. They don't want keep it simple.
Yeah, a bunch of paperwork for the players.
Yeah, so we have we keep stats on things like not just win-loss ratios on factions and players, but we've also got a lot of win-loss ratios on factions and players and who went first or second. So there's that age-old question of which is better, going first or second. Well, we have the data, and you can compare that in ITC versus ETC. Obviously, ITC, there's a lot of end-of-turn scoring so hold more and kill more, you're better off going second. There's obviously army dependencies around that, but it's quite a common conception that you should go second if you can.
Well, for people that are unfamiliar with what you got going on, let's direct them. So if they go to downunderpairings, all one word.com, that should bring them to your main webpage.
It should indeed. In the menus, you'll be able to go to, there's a number of components, but I guess if we go down the area that we're talking about right now, you'll see in the menu a rankings option, and players versus teams. So teams are things like clubs and whatnot, but they go a bit beyond just, I guess, the traditional club concept. So going into players, as I said, the most common is 40k and Age of Sigmar, so they're the only ones who bother ranking at the moment.
I've clicked on players for Warhammer 40,000, and now it's taking me to a list of folks. It's like some people have some names here. We got some icons next to their names.
Yeah, so basically what we've got going on there, so we've got how many events someone plays, their rankings points. So we have our own rankings algorithm around that. Their ELO rating, which is something we brought out in the last 6 months. So for those who don't know what an ELO rating is, because a lot of people don't, it's not something we invented. We didn't reinvent the wheel. It's to do with, it came out of chess originally. It's a different way of ranking people.
Chess
it's based
NASCAR,
on
like NASCAR over here has it.
Yeah, it's used everywhere. So it's used in video games, American football, basketball, Major League Baseball, table tennis, Scrabble, board games, a bunch of others. The exact calculation behind it requires a bit more maths than it's probably worth going through in a podcast, but on the info icon on that ranking screen, it'll talk you through it a bit. But in a nutshell, what it does is it compares your ELO rating score versus your opponent's ELO rating score and determines who's got the better chance of winning. And then, so if I was to, for example, come up against Nick Nanavati, who would most likely have a high ELO rating score, if he beats me, well, it was expected based on that percentages. So my score would technically still go down, but not by much. And his would go up, but not by much as well, because there's a big differential between ELO ratings. However, if I beat Nick, mine would skyrocket and his would drop a fair bit. So it's based on, how you're competing specifically against individuals. So but the reason why we kind of went down that path as a secondary rankings format is around smaller events, so things like RTTs, where you can end up with like 3 people, 4 people on max wins, and it really depends on who they played to determine who really had the tougher run, and strength of schedule isn't often enough. So you could win an event but get a lesser increase in your ELO rating than someone who maybe had a tougher run than you. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's general gist. The pretty little icons next to some of the names. So basically what we've got there, icons for tournament champions. So anyone who's won an actual tournament gets a little cup next to their name. The little crown icon is anyone who's won a tournament with more than 60 players. There is a little castle, which is currently held by Matt Morrisoli, which is an award we call the Boss. So basically that's the person who's won the most number of events in the current tournament calendar. So he smashed out 5 wins this year.
He did pretty well in Vegas. I remember us talking about him a lot.
Yeah, so Morrisoli won the Australian ITC Championship, or not the event, but the circuit, I guess, for Australia last season, and the prize was flights, accommodation, and entry to LVO. Mm-hmm. So he went to LVO. Matt's an absolute champ. Good friend of mine, and he's broken many of my models. Let me just. There's a long-standing joke. It was between him and another guy I know. They took out a bookshelf of mine in my hobby room, just demolished, I don't know, 4 armies.
Oh, that's crazy.
It hurts.
Yep.
And we've got a couple other little ones. So there's a frog. So the person who's played the most factions. So Lee Abbey has played 8 different factions, primary factions, over the course of the year. So just a little bit of fun there as well, beyond just stats. But as far as who I would check out, I would click on Matt Morrisoli for those playing at home.
I'm going to click on Adam Camilleri
My man. All right. Well, I'll follow along, and those can follow along at home.
And I see a player bio coming soon. Can I just make up what I think should be there?
You know what? Why not? You should shoot me something through. What we've been doing is we've been going through players in the pointy end of the rankings, and basically talking through how they got into the game, and
likes to swear when he knows and he shouldn't.
Yeah. Although he didn't use the C-bomb once, did he?
No, he's actually done really well at editing himself on that. I just joke, one of the things that coming on FTN is that I try to keep it PG-13 for folks, and sometimes just in the course of normal conversation, it just comes out.
Yeah.
Out there in public when we're not on the radio, people when they hear me talk, they're like, "Are you sure you're the FTN guy?" Yeah. Because it gets a little saucy.
Yeah, I think in Australia we are a bit more liberal with the use of our language.
I'm just giving him a hard time. I'm going to continue to create fake bio things. Likes to play guard, even though they're terrible in the meta right now. Has a strange
I'll give you that one.
Infatuation with Dark Angels. I don't think he's a traitor, but he could be.
He could be a traitor. I mean, it's a tough one.
He sees some perfectly green armor and he wants to paint it black. I could go on with this bio, but maybe that's getting us away from the other thing. But also, if people had clicked on his name, they will see what I assume was a club name, and then his 40k stats. So it shows that he has 93 wins, 25 losses, and 3 draws.
Yeah, so basically with that, what we've got is obviously the stats are down under Pairings. So there's a number of different pairing sites out there. Best Coast Pairings, obviously the most popular in the US. Down under Pairings in Australia, and there's a couple of other ones floating around there. We have much like BCP does, we have an upload spreadsheet. So the 93 wins are the wins that we know of. Some people, may not have submitted scores and whatnot, but that's the same with any pairings or ranking system. You only know what the data you've been given.
I'm going to give him 94 wins because he has also won my heart.
Aw, shucks. And then with the player profiles, so most of what we've done to date, we're trying to keep, in front of the paywall. So we do have a subscription service. We try to, all of what you need to do is in front of the paywall. Anyone can do it. You don't have to sign up. It's free to use, etc. We do try and encourage people to subscribe. So we do have some nice little features that go behind the paywall, just like anyone else who's, hosting's not free. We try to put out a pretty good product. But the player bio will tell you their largest win streak and their current win streak. So Adam's largest win streak was 14 games in a row. That would have been across probably 4 tournaments, maybe 5 tournaments, depending on when it started.
It's a solid afternoon.
His current win streak 0 though. Oh. So his last game on Down Under Pairings was a loss.
Vegas is tough on people.
He's tabled 24 of his opponents that we know of. And this is a shout out to 40k Stats Center. So we do have the tournament in winning positions, or TWIP score. So for those who aren't familiar with that,
this is on him. This is his personal TWIP.
This is his personal TWIP. So for those that have followed 40k Stats Center, I'm not sure who technically came up with it, whether it was Val or the Falcon, but it's their coined term. Basically, it relates to anyone who's gone undefeated for the first 4 rounds of a 5 or more round event, which represents the player being at the cusp of winning an event. So he has done that 5 times, which is 29% of his tracked events.
And I know we went fast when we were describing this originally, but anyone that's wanting to check out the Down Under Pairings could be following along with us right now. We're looking at things that require no subscription, just no nothing. These are just click things open to anybody to check and see if it's something that's you might want to track on yourself or with your club.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, so you don't have to use Down Under Pairings. Obviously, we encourage you. We think it's the best pairing site out there. We're pretty confident with our products. But if you don't use it, but you still want to have your tournament scores submitted so you can track this kind of stats, get in contact with the tournament organizer. There's a very simple spreadsheet to fill out, not too dissimilar to how BCP does it. Shouldn't take too long at all. And we can upload that, and you can still have your results tracked within here, regardless. So we've got Adam at a 77% win ratio, which is pretty solid. And of the games that we know who went first and who went second, it's actually a bit higher. So the games that we don't know are actually turns out to be some of his losses. But when Adam goes first, he wins 89% of the time, and when he goes second, he wins 76% of the time.
There you go. Trying to game this dude, you trick him into going second.
Yeah.
You maybe present some false weakness that he thinks he can take advantage of, or thinks that you're a weak player. He doesn't need to get some early game advantage on you.
What we've tried to do is give people a bit of insight into how a player plays. And up until all the things we've just gone through, as I said, are in front of the paywall. The next couple of things that we'll go through are currently behind the paywall, and we're going to continue to add more features around that. One of them is ITC secondaries.
Well, if I can stay on this for just 1 second, is it you?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah, I know you mentioned the ELO rating, and that just means how good they are. How often are they to beat people on the regular, right? And
it is. And we also have a 12-month rolling score. So at the end of each month, it keeps track of what their ELO rating was. So we can see if they've gone up or down or how they've been progressing over the last 12 months. So the ELO rating is purely there to see the higher the number, the more likely they're going to beat a good player. The lower the number, the more likely they're going to lose to a good player.
Yeah, any kind of information like this is just information. It's kind of up to you to interpret, know what the right thing to do on that day is. You know, you might be able to skew what the results by a % or two on the other way. You look at it at face value. Like, look, this guy has a 13% chance worse off of winning if he goes second. So I just got to convince this guy to go second. And then I'm theoretically 13% better to win then. So let's make that happen.
Exactly. And look, obviously, there's a huge amount of, we're not talking about chess where, it's the same game every time. We are talking about 40k where
chess has no variance.
Army dependent.
This has variance.
So it is, take it with a grain of salt. But that's like anything. If you look at stats on UFC fighters, did they fight a grappler? Did they fight what kind of fighter did they fight against to get their wins? Like it's the same with any sport too. The American football, some teams have a better defense than offense, and
all the L's came against Imperial Fist, and he's good at fighting everything else. Then if you're not playing Imperial Fist, you're probably losing.
Well, it's funny you say that, because one of the stats we do track, and this is one of the ones that is behind the paywall, is top 3 opponent factions. So I can tell you, Adam has played Adeptus Astartes 6 times and got an 83% win ratio. He's played Guard 6 times and he's won every single one of them. And he's played Death Guard 5 times and he's won every single one of them. So if you come up against Adam and you have Guard or Death Guard, then you're pushing it uphill.
Hate to be the bearer of bad news to you, but you're probably going to lose.
Well, he's got some reps under it.
This is like twice as much information as you're going to find anywhere else. And the fact that this automatically kind of tracks it for you on a player-by-player basis, and then makes it easy to search and then easy to digest, I think is miles above what some other things out there are doing, or just anecdotal evidence in a Facebook post or something. So the fact that you're going to tell me there's anything past here is pretty cool.
Well, yeah. So as I said, we try to. One of our goals when we first started with the subscription concept with Down Under Pairings was we'd bring out new features and they would go to subscribers first because, they've been supporting us. And then as we add new features, the older ones that the subscribers had would then get opened up to everyone. So pretty much the idea was subscribers would kind of get a 6 to 12 month window of features that no one else got. And that's kind of a rolling window. People get rewarded, but also, I wrote this site because it's something I wanted.
Yeah. No, it's all easy.
I like stats.
When you were describing this to me, and I ran through this before, it's all like easy to navigate to and then easy to digest. Like I can look at it and whatever I happen to be feeling at the time, I created a question in my head and I knew that I could solve it with numbers. Oh, look, here's a nice little bundled up chart that I can look at that not only has the numbers, but it also has colors and lines that give me some type of reference and significance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's strong, man. Sorry, not to cut us off from the paywall. I know. Now, look, everything we talked about is the free stuff. So if you've never signed up for one of these things before, go and check out what the thing is. Know that it is a tournament running software. That if you use it, you're going to happen to get these second and tertiary benefits from it. And if I can even be so bold as the secondary, tertiary benefits gives you something to talk about. Like when you and your group of friends start to participate with this, and then you start to see like, oh man, if I just win this, if I just beat this guy in this round of the tournament, then my score is going to go up a little bit, and more importantly, his score is going to go down a little bit, and then I get to make fun of him.
100%. I mean, let's face it.
Is that how it works?
Beyond like the top echelon, like the people who win, the ITC, season, for example. Besides those specific people, I mean, there's thousands of other people that are still interested in rankings. They know they're not going to, so someone in Australia will never win the ITC season unless they go to LVO. Like, I mean, we can't. We don't have the size events.
Yes, fair.
That doesn't mean we can't have bragging rights against our friends. We still can say, hey, I may be down, ranked 300, 400, 500. I may be down there, but by the way, you're down at 600. Come on, keep up.
Yeah, if you can ever beat me, let's do some wrestling promos. That's going to help me with this Armageddon series stuff. I'm telling you, it's going to be amazing.
Well, I'm pretty pumped with the stuff that we've worked on with you with the Armageddon series, and as I said, really keen to see where that starts to run away with a few events in the US. And
if we can get back onto, I know I'm the one that's leading us all over the place, but I don't want to leave like a cool unturned stone in one of the sections, because there's a lot of neat stuff here. And then behind the paywall, you sounded like you're talking about like you can start to track the known or the at least most commonly picked secondaries, ITC secondaries for players.
Yeah, so Adam, for example, his most commonly picked ITC secondary is Recon, which he averages 3.6 points. He's picked Big Game Hunter 9 times and scored full points every single time. He's picked Butcher's Bill 9 times and he averaged 3.44. So he, there is top 3 secondaries by
Has he ever
played,
picked
and they got good averages. School? He better not have. I'll slap him. There's a running joke Adam and I have with Old School. If ever you think you're going to pick Old School as a secondary, you're wrong. Think again. It has one of the lowest averages of any secondary, and it's the one that you pick when you can't work out what to pick.
It's been working all right for me. Maybe I'm just holding it up. I'm holding any numbers up for anybody else.
Mate, if it's working well for you and the averages are pretty low, imagine what it's working out for everyone else. So we keep track of what secondaries they've used, what factions they've played, and what factions they've played against. So yeah, we try and keep a good track. We also do non-player based reports for our subscribers as well, so they can just look at secondaries by faction. We've got some pretty cool stuff where people can look at win-loss ratios or ITC secondaries, faction versus faction.
So I was going to say win-loss ratio versus faction, yeah.
Well, but faction versus faction. So you're coming up to a game, you're playing Tyranids, and your opponent is playing Blood Angels. You can put that into the filters. It will tell you which ITC secondaries are the most commonly used and which one have the highest average points in that specific matchup.
Are we playing power level or match play with points?
I'm assuming match play.
When
you say power, when I say points, I'm talking about points scored.
Oh, I know. But that's how you're going to tell. I mean, like, because power level Tyranids are way better than points.
Well, I don't actually, in Australia, I don't know a single tournament that uses power level.
Oh, I don't either. Yeah, no.
We had a couple of events that still use power level for some restrictions. So, like, it's not common at all, but some of, especially the lower points events, they might say, you can't have a unit that's more than, 25 power level, or like that. They pick a number. It seems fairly arbitrary to me, but it's nonetheless. Here's those stats for you. So Old School, of all the games we've tracked, we know that it's been played 2,327 times on Down Under Pairings and has an average of 2.44, which is the fourth lowest average.
Are you tracking there in that average the 244? Is it that's how many times someone's gotten all 4 points, or is the points?
Or the average. So basically, it's total amount of points scored divided by total number of times it's been played gives you your average. So, Gangbusters is not very commonly used. We've got only 550 games with it, but it has an average of 3.29, which is our highest.
With all the Centurions out there now, it will be.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can start seeing trends around that. Also, the other thing that's quite skewy is there are some secondaries that only really get picked when you know you're going to get all the points anyway. So, like Reaper, for example, really skews the results because people who pick Reaper are normally playing against a Horde list and they almost always max it out.
Yeah.
And people who pick Titan Slayer, well, it doesn't get picked that much, but, they're probably playing an all-nights list kind of thing. So, you almost always get those points. The trickier ones, like Pick Your Poison and Headhunter and Butcher's Bill, and even Mark for Death to a point, they're sometimes a little bit harder to get. Ground Control is one of the worst ones to pick, an average of 2.2.
Interesting.
But once again, I mean, once you start breaking that down by faction, you might find that your specific faction might get it almost all the time. So that's why I'm saying, it's when you look at stats very broadly, they can paint a picture from a meta perspective, like a broader picture, but not necessarily tell you what you should be doing in your very specific game that you're about to play.
Yeah, and this stuff is available on the Down Under Pairings website, right? You log in, pay subscription for this part, and you can see all this stuff.
Yep, there's pretty graphs, charts, tables, all kinds of cool stuff.
That's what I like about even in the out there in the free content, there are still some graphs and things that help give a visible, explanation about what the numbers may be saying.
Yeah, and also, I mean, let's face it. Who buys something who subscribes to something that they don't know what's at least roughly behind it? You got to give someone a taste.
Well, it's the good stuff too. I mean, like I could take what you have here and just be fine with it.
Most do.
I mean, I would then be bothering my event organizers to get myself in Down Under Network. So can someone run their event either from a web page or for an app within the system to make it to be able to be tracked?
Yeah, so Down Under Pairings is a website or a web application. So we work on any device that basically has a browser. So I don't care if it's a smartphone, Android, iOS, tablet, laptop, computer. As I said, anything with an internet connection and a web browser, you can use Down Under Pairings. Mm-hmm. Either as a player, a tournament organizer, or what we're finding even more popular is just a viewer. We had one of our largest events, albeit it was an Age of Sigmar event. We had our largest event on the same weekend as LVO. And that event had 220 odd players. But on that weekend, we had, I think it was like 1,200 individual people log on and view that event.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing where we're finding more common. So Down Under Pairings also integrates with streamers. So the Honest Wargamer or the T-Sports network, Down Under Pairings basically runs all their overlays, so their scores.
Oh, wow. Like, how does that work? Like, it just pulls it directly from the...
Yeah, so basically, there's Down Under Pairings has what's called an API, which probably means nothing to most people, but to people who's streaming, hopefully they've got a bit more of an idea of some of this stuff. And it pulls data that you want out of Down Under Pairings. So what they do is they pretty much put in what's called a tournament ID, which is not too dissimilar in concept to like BCP's tokens, but it is slightly different. So it pulls in a tournament ID and says, all right, I want to grab the current leaderboard for that tournament, or I want to grab the current scores of this specific game. So we use it at Down Under Network. And if you really want to see some of the real bells and whistles, so the Down Under Network has rebranded it a little bit, and we're part of Art of War now. So currently we're Art of War Down Under, but you'll be able to view us on the Art of War Twitch channel. And we'll be up running our Australia and New Zealand Masters event. So 16-player invitational, top players in Australia, knockout style event. And we'll be streaming that in last weekend of March.
That sounds cool.
We're pretty pumped, and we're going to be bringing some, obviously Adam won't be streaming that weekend. He normally streams with me. He'll be playing. So what we did last year was Adam and I had a deal. If he lost his game, because it's a knockout event, he would then continue streaming. He made it to the final round.
Typically, when I offer that up, I go 2 or 3 rounds of playing and then find myself streaming.
So we'll be putting out some new stuff, and obviously all the streamers out there at the moment. It's really a funny little community we've got. You would expect that the people doing the same thing, there'd be a bit more competition between the groups, but I've found it's the exact opposite. Everyone wants to help everyone. Yeah. And it's amazing. It's an amazing community to be a part of. Yep.
I agree with that.
I found that in a podcast as well. I mean, how often do you have people from a different podcast on your podcast?
Dude, all the time. And I get people ask me for help, and they're like, well, and I tell them, they're like, wow, I wouldn't have expected you to have given me this nugget of information or whatever. Like, why on earth would I not? Like, we are in this together.
Oh, exactly. If we all lift each other up, the things that we could do.
Yep, a rising tide. That's basically it. Oh, but I do want to ask you one more question. How do I see? You may have this in your subscription based thing. How can I tell what army Adam is the weakest to?
The weakest to? Mm-hmm. At the moment, it's interesting. Well, for starters, if you are a subscriber, you can view every single game. So you can see every single game they played, what faction they played against. But what we've tried to do is keep these stats more positive.
This is for him to understand who he's weakest to, but also for me to determine what I'm building next.
Because we ummed and ahed about it, like having the top 3 factions as in scores wise versus the bottom 3 factions scores wise. In the end, we just went with top 3 factions played against. If you happen to beat them, you happen to beat them. We were also thinking about doing it for players. Who's their nemesis, kind of, who have they played the most? Like individuals. And
who is his nemesis that I then must go and train under for a period of time?
Well, one of the things we have got, if you are in the same region as someone else, when you look on a player profile, if you're a subscriber, you can, on the game list, it'll tell you how many games you personally have played them and the win-loss ratio between you two personally.
This is all in good fun. I'm not trying to wring our man through the mud here or whatever. I'm just thinking about it.
He'd be quite... Look, you know, Adam, Australians have I think, a pretty good sense of humour. If you can't make fun of yourself, you have no right to make fun of anyone else.
I just want to show up one day with whatever his nemesis is. Like, hey, you got to play this.
Well, he lost against Boat Spam, as in it was a combination of Venoms and Raiders. He's lost against Eldar Flyers. He's lost against Marines. He's lost against Chaos a couple times.
We do have an any given Sunday type thing, though. I mean, a lot of times we can't say our army is mismatched against the others. You know, you don't bring the right tools. You wish you brought the guns with 5 shots, but you brought the strong guns with 3 shots apiece or whatever. It's just it could be a different ball game altogether. So again, not to make fun of him, or I'm not actually trying to plot to undo this guy. I just thought it'd be funny to go down the list and.
For sure. Have you played much on what's the online? It's like a total 3D tabletop. No,
Tabletop Simulator.
Tabletop Simulator. I knew I'd get there eventually. Yep. You played anything on that?
I have
before?
not.
See, we've been talking about that for a while because we've got a lot of people that we bring on our stream from US, Canada, the UK, and we've been thinking about for a while. We should do some kind of streamers tournament. Yeah, man. So all the people who stream, but of course we're all over the world.
If it plays well, I'll try it. I'll buy the sub or whatever.
Well, yeah. Well, I honestly, like we've been talking about it for a while. It's something that's just been in the back burner because there's too many different projects that we like to all get involved in. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like, imagine being able to go, you know what, I'm going to play against Paul over in the US while I'm in Australia. Like that stuff, like the golden age. It's the golden age. Mm-hmm. Brings us into eSports territory.
Getting there. We are so close.
Yeah.
Well, dude, man, thanks for talking to me about this stuff and what options this system has. I mean, even if people don't run their tournaments in this system, they can still export their data onto some type of format that you need and then import it into this, and you can actually get this whole like engine tuned up for them, right? Is that true?
Yeah, sure can.
Does it do it on the back end, or does it like a real manual process?
No, it's so basically the player profiles are all dynamic and automated. So as soon as the result's in there, it's in there. And as far as the upload result, at the moment it's via a spreadsheet. We are looking at doing a couple of different options. And if you are, obviously the US is very ITC dominated. We've done a number of videos on the Down on a Network channel. I did a video on how to set up an ITC event in, I think it was 5 minutes or less. And that was with what we call detailed scorecards. So, the ITC champ missions, basically we've got them all as templates. So you can hit, round 1, we're playing mission 1. When people look at their scorecard, there's a little info icon and it gives them pictures of, where objectives need to go, what the special rules are, what the bonus objective is, and all that sort of stuff. So we've got really detailed score sheets available to some of our TOs, to all our TOs that want to use it.
This is great. I'm going to have, a page with event results up on my website pretty soon, forgethenarrative.net, that has the Armageddon series stuff on there. The help that you help me tabulate. People will be able to click into those players and see how they behaved in that tournament. Like as far as the wins and losses, that kind of stuff. It's going to be neat to share. And thank you so much for helping me with that. I mean, I guess I got to thank you for a lot of stuff. Thanks for lending me Adam to come do some work over here in the States.
That was super exciting. Exciting.
Thanks for talking with me about this and walking anybody who's brand new to it through the downunderpairings.com website, and then giving me a place where I can stick some of this tournament series stuff. I know we've had a lot of interest from folks from around the world that want to do their own Armageddon series type event where they are. And then this was like a really cool proof of concept. We now saw it all the way through and closed it out for season 1. We're ready for season 2.
Yeah, so we're super excited to be involved with you guys, and it's one of those things. Anyone out there, we are super passionate about tabletop gaming. So, when people say, can your system do X? And if it can't, the amount of times I go, that sounds like such a cool idea. Why haven't I thought of it already? And I just go and do it.
Yeah. Well, man, I hope to have you on again soon.
Anytime.
Have a great rest of your night or day. It's the middle of your day right now.
In the middle of the day for me, yeah.
And we will talk again soon.
Awesome. Thanks heaps.
All right, we'll see you.
Peace.
You are tuned into Forge the Narrative.
Hey everybody, we are back. I hope you enjoyed that segment from Down Under Pairings. I love that system.
And it loves you.
Well, just the metrics on the players or whatever is kind of fun to track. And so if that's your thing, I would love to see that become a little bit more adopted out there.
Yeah, dude, I've had quite a bit to do with it. And yeah, the bigger and more people that use it, just the crazier that kind of interface will get.
But it's got kind of a sleek feel. It's not. I actually used the stats in that last segment to plan out how I'm going to beat you when we play. So.
What did it tell you?
I was doing it like, well, he seems to not like going second. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, dude. Like I had like over 100 games tracked in that system, and I had a 100% win chance going first. I had 100% of my games logged in that system of my 100 games. I won going first up until like 2 months ago when Iron Hands came out and I got smashed. Yeah. It was pretty good.
It's just neat. We're kind of going through and looking at some of the stuff. So check it out, people. I mean, it's one of those things setting up the Armageddon series through it, which had some people ask about information coming up this year about those tournaments, and we're still planning it out. It takes it's an independent circuit, kind of a coalition of independent tournaments that contribute into these series points, and we ended up doing all the tabulation and tracking and stuff through Down Under Pairings, and I think it's pretty slick and want to try to do more in it. Can't wait.
Where are we at with this? Are we talking about Scions now?
No, we got a couple stratagems to talk about. So in addition to the tank aces, which was, that's really enough. I mean, the guard, again, they needed just a little bit of help to get there, and a lot of their stuff they have give them stuff extra to do with their vehicles. And so in an environment where vehicles are kind of struggling right now, largely due to the Devastator Doctrine and some pretty aggressive Marine traits, I don't know that that's going to get them past the middle tables. But I'm curious to try it out. And then they got some stratagems here to help. And the guard got plenty of CPs to burn this kind of stuff on.
That's right, dude. So all these extra stratagems and things. Yeah, well, I've run triple battalions. I've run brigades. Hell, I ran a brigade double battalion for a little bit.
Yeah, you got some relics to get you some stuff back. I mean, you're going to have a pretty much an endless supply of CP if you choose to with the Guard. So let's talk about Relentless. This is kind of a neat one. We talk about having your tanks extend, their shelf life a bit. Use this stratagem at the start of your turn. Select one vehicle model, except a Titanic model. So there is that. That has a damage table on its data sheet. Until the end of that turn, the model uses the top row of its damage table, regardless of how many wounds it has lost. That's a 1 CP stratagem.
I like that quite a lot. I can't tell you the amount of times I've chucked up all the defensive buffs on my tank commander, and he's been left on 1 or 2 wounds, and then shot back and done nothing. I'll be like, well, he might as well have been dead that turn.
Yeah, exactly. I think definitely from a standpoint, I think that's definitely a winner from us, especially since it's a wonderful 1 CP stratagem, which, I mean, as I said, it's like they're starting to get these stratagem and they're designing them to be utilitarian, which is good, which means that they're not there to necessarily break the game or break what it's doing, but they're really good at being useful. Like, you're going to use this. If you're running tanks, this is going to get used. So, which I like.
We do a whole episode on different stratagem types. I think there's really 2 main types of stratagems. There's ones you build your list around, and then there's ones that accentuate what you make your list as. Things like transhuman physiology, things like weapons from the Dark Age, things that tell you should build your list to make this stratagem function. And to get mileage out of it. But then there's ones like this, which are just adding utility to stuff you're probably always going to take anyway.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call on that, because this is just, you want to have it in your back pocket. This is one of those that you want to remember that you have turn 4, turn 5, or whatever.
Exactly. Every army any army with vehicles would play this. This would be instantly usable in every army with any kind of vehicle. So,
and what I'll say is Guard. One of the worst things about Guard vehicles, purely non-tank commanders, is that their last bracket, their worst bracket, they hit on 6s. So this is, I think this gets exponentially better the worse the tank is. A Basilisk hitting on 6s on 1 wound left, 1 CP to hit on 4s, that's a huge swing. Making a tank commander that was going to hit on 4s or 5s hit on 3s, that's not actually as big a statistical swing. You're probably more likely to do more damage from the tank commander, but a statistical swing for that 1 CP, making that Basilisk that was going to do literally nothing, do something meaningful, that's a big deal.
I like that. Furious Charge. This is another 1 CP. This is use this stratagem in your charge phase. When an Ogren unit from your army finishes a charge move, for each model in that unit, you can select one enemy unit within 1 inch of that model and roll a d6. On a 4+, that enemy suffers 1 mortal wound. I do not typically like stratagems that you have to pay for and then roll, but this one I don't mind.
I'm with you there. I don't like paying a CP for a chance. I'd rather pay more CP for no chance. My best example is that I played Black Templars for a while, and do you know how much it used to suck when someone was about to warp time Morty into my face? And I was like, here we go, the 4+ deny, and I missed it. Well, I guess now I have to pay another CP for another chance. Oh, and I missed that too. It's 2 CP down the drain for literally no difference, no change to the status quo. I would much rather have paid 2 CP, or hell, in some circumstances, I'd pay 3 freaking CP to just auto-stop a power going off, rather than paying 2 CP for 2 50-50 chances. It hurt my soul. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of paying for a chance, but still, stuff like this is, you can get a lot of utility out of stuff like this, especially when you're charging things like Knights, or things like, I mentioned transhuman physiology. Things like transhuman, they cut down your damage output by sometimes a half. If you're winning on 2s, you go from 2s to 4s. That's almost in the regions of a half. I'm not 100% locked down on all the percentages, but and so if you were to charge something with Bulgren, if they turned on transhuman, or you were suspecting they were going to turn on transhuman, something like this lets you eke back that damage you would have done had they not used the CP. So I don't mind it in those situations. It brings back the balance of power a little bit.
And you typically got 10, let's say you got a full complement of Ogre, and you are going to get lots of chances.
4 or 5.
You're going to get some mortal wounds through. It's just, extra damage.
Well, if a full unit of Bulgren charge in, they all make, all within an inch. Technically you'll pull down a Centurion just with a mortal wounds before you even bring out your dice to roll to hit.
That's pretty significant. I think you're going to struggle with getting any more damage off, but
Yeah. In that exchange, it's actually a big deal. Like if your last resort to not have like assault centurions get way deep into your backfield and touch all your artillery in a bad way and your tank commanders and stuff. If you've just got like, hey, Bulgrin, I'm sorry, boys, we need to do this now. You will throw every resource you got, wouldn't you?
I get maybe with Avalanche of Muscle, and I mean coming in with the 4 and 5 attacks and a 2 damage weapon. It's only neg 1 though. Maybe you do
exactly
pull down.
Right. They're having. Well, I've already done the math plenty of times, and without a 3+ invulnerable save, without the brute shield, and then the +1 save on top from the psychic power, you go in and through transhuman you bounce, and then every hit that they have back. So you need 2 hits to go through a 3+ save. You need two wounds to go through a 3+ save to kill one of them. They need 1 hit to go through a 3+ invuln to kill one of you. And it's just the exchange is horrible. And usually in those units of Bulgrin, you only have 3 or 4 of those 3-up saves. And if you just roll a little bit bad, the whole unit evaporates. Because as soon as you get past those saves, you go into a 4+ or a 5+ armor, and then you just get vaporized. It's a bad exchange. So anything, I like this because anything that I can have in my toolbox, because there's no other answer. Like I've shot, apart from shooting them full of everything in your army, there's no other answer really for Centurions or things, sometimes even things like aggressors, in a guard army when they've got transhuman and a couple other defensive buffs like a Feel No Pain or whatnot. But yeah, anything I can add to like try and even the scales, I like.
Yeah, but do you think that this maybe tips the odds back in your favor if you are able to pull one down through the mortal wounds and then get some attacks through? Are you then killing another one? So they've only got 1 that swings back, 1 or 2.
Well, if they've got a unit of 6, usually you go in and you pull down 3, sometimes 4 if you're lucky. So pulling down a 5th one is a big deal. Is a really big deal. Because Bulgrin don't have the option to fight twice, what usually happens is you charge into Centurions, they'll transhuman, you'll kill, let's say, 3 of them, and then those 3 will fight twice and they'll kill all 9 Bulgrin. They'll kill all of them. Or kill them to 1 or 2 left, and then they might as well be dead anyway. But with this, like if you change that to killing 4 of them, 2 fighting back, maybe those 3-up invulns, they hold up now. So maybe that completely skews the math. We'll have to look into it. Because, yeah, your average is 4 to 5 mortal wounds. Now, what sucks there is that the difference between doing 5 and doing 6 is nothing. So doing 5 mortal wounds, you might as well be doing 4, because you still need 2 maul attacks to go through to kill another one. So you really want to do either 4 or 6. 5 doesn't even matter. It doesn't even come into the equation.
Yeah, fair enough.
Look at you using math.
But you got to roll the dice, right? Maybe you get all 10.
You got to roll the dice. It's a dice, baby. Yeah, maybe you get all 10. You're just like, well, I win. Yeah. Game, set, match. Adam, Bulgrin. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So direct onslaught. This is another 1 CP, and we're not going to go through them all, but there are some really good utility things in here, and I thought that Fury's Charge was worth mentioning for that express purpose. But this is direct onslaught. Use the stratagem in your shooting phase when a Manicore or Wyvern model from your army is chosen to shoot with until the end of that phase and resolving an attack made by the Storm Eagle or Rocket or Wyvern Quad Storm Mortar by that model against a unit that is visible, add 1 to the hit roll. So you got to see.
Ooh, that's not bad. Sorry, you go, Thomas.
Oh yeah, it's like the 1 to the hit roll. It can be so huge just to get this thing just pouring in some extra wounds. So these are the things I like, where like you have a small little thing, you're like, okay, I'm going to get some utility out of this other shot. It's when you start seeing these little rules and these little things that I think, where I do see a lot of enjoyment, a lot of kind of design aspect. I think, okay, these are things that are worth stratagems. These are things that are worth kind of going on, which is kind of my thought on a lot of this stuff. Is like, this is better. This is what we need to.
With the guard, with their worst BS on average and needing to buff them up, things like lightning fast reactions or just someone's innate neg 1 to hit really stacks up. You're like, oh man, I would be so good if I was just hitting on my 50-50, and this kind of gets you closer.
It's the same thing. You talked earlier too. It's like, I like these powers over stuff like transhuman. Transhuman is no fun. Like, that is a not fun power to deal with. It's just not fun from point like, you mean like, okay, well, these things are super tough for me to wound anyway. Oh, all right, okay.
Well, this gets you more hits, so you're able to overcome some of those defenses that are built into a lot of armies. I mean, again, that's the separation between getting a point for kill or kill more is sometimes those. I mean, God, I don't know how many times that lightning fast reaction has just saved my bacon, made me dang near invulnerable, or at least brick them a 3-point swing in my favor. And this 1 CP investment negates that.
Yeah, and on top of that, like there comes a clutch moment in like a tight game playing guard where someone's going to peek around a corner and be able to see your artillery, being able to be like, well, do you want to now? Because if you peek around and you don't kill me, here comes the pain, baby.
And, and here's something to kind of dig at the Eldar. If I remember right, Lightning Fast is 2 CP.
This is, yeah.
And this is only 1.
I think you're right.
I liked it a lot.
I think it changed to 2 CP, right? Is that was the changes?
I'm pretty sure it's always been 2 CP. I mean, I can look here in a second, but it's
you're right. You're right. It's always been 2 CP. You're right. I'm thinking of it incorrectly.
I mean, don't worry. That's against every shooting thing, so it has like a lot of things that are value in the Eldar or Dark Eldar because it affects like the whole army, the whole faction or whatever. This is just for one thing, but you see this stuff used on things with 4 or 5 wounds or guardians or whatever, and you're able to overcome that with something that's really good at taking out the things they would use it on for 1 CP.
Oh yeah. I think it's one of those like this is just a good solid power.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I'm also a big fan of things that make mana cores more available and more viable because they have gone by the wayside and they are such a cool model.
Yeah, they were great for a while back when you could double people's toughness out. I mean, that was really hot. I mean, that's been forever since you could do that. But now the strength 10, I don't know if it's as important anymore.
Yeah, and the neg only being, I think they're only neg 2.
It is neg 2, yeah.
Yeah, and the neg 2 hurts a lot in this day and age as well. A lot of things are spamming cover with the stealthy traits, and so essentially it's only being neg 1, and then the variable D3 damage with a lot of the multi-wound models out at the moment, it can kind of suck.
It's only got 4 missiles.
Look, if it gets to shoot 4 missiles, you've done well and you're probably winning. Let's face it.
I mean, this is somebody who when I run at least 2.
Yeah, I used to run 2 as well.
What's the damage on them?
D3 or so 3 all the time with a tank ace.
Yeah, baby. So 2d6, strength 10, minus 2 d3 damage.
Doesn't it feel like it should be doing more damage than d3? Or should just do, right? Is that my feeling? I was like, that's always my feeling. Like, it should do more than that.
Well, once you get
flat 2 damage.
12 shots, not that you're going to get 12 shots, but when you do get a high number of shots, you do feel like you're walking on the clouds, man. Like, this thing does work if a lot of things line up for it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I remember back in the day getting shot by them like crazy and just feel like, I hate these things so much.
But that was more like, I think, the double out toughness. I mean, I think they've been good even in 8th, especially when you buff them up.
Well, I used to like him as Cadian in 8th quite a while. I used to just give him overlapping fields of fire, and then they'd shoot with +1 to hit from out of line of sight, which was really nice. But yeah, because the specialist attachment came out and they buffed, you can now double shoot a basilisk with ignores cover and a bunch of other things. It's just like, there didn't seem much point to take the more expensive manticore. And of course, the basilisk just kept getting points reductions as well. So it kind of got zoned out there. Plus the -3 on the Bassi over the -2 actually made a big deal.
Right.
Speaking of vehicle stuff, again, there's a lot of vehicle buff and stuff here. The Hail of Fire. This is a 2 CP stratagem. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a Leman Russ model from your army is chosen to shoot with. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with a weapon by that model against a vehicle unit, do not roll to determine the type characteristic of that weapon. It has the maximum value, e.g. heavy D6 is 6 shots.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that one before, and I love it. I love it, love it, love it.
Well, there's a relic weapon, isn't there?
Either the relic battle cannon or a demolisher cannon, or so many options for this. It's
Punisher Executioner really getting max shots.
Yeah, Plasma Executioner. Is it just a turret gun or is it anything?
Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with a weapon by that model against a vehicle unit, so it does have to be against a vehicle, do not roll to determine the type. So it's all weapons.
Oh, wow. So the plasma cannons on your sponsons get flat 3 shots each as well. That's huge. So you automatically, for how many CP?
2.
2 CP, you just get 18 shots from a plasma executioner. 18 plasma shots from a plasma executioner, bang, 2 CP. There you go. Off you go. Enjoy your life. The relic battle cannon.
Yeah, depending on how
the relic battle cannon or the demolisher.
Well, you make him a tank ace too. Now he can't get the max damage from that, at least not from the support weapons. But there's a lot of other things that you can get from the Leman Russ tree.
I'm so keen on that. Wow.
It just sucks that it has to be shooting against other vehicles, so it's going to be really good against other tank aces. You're like, all right, tank aces, it's going to be a real good game against you.
Knights, again, we saw them. Yeah. I mean, heck, I know you took that ridiculous Lord of Skulls list. Their vehicles exist out there. They still do. I mean,
that said just vehicles, wasn't vehicles and monsters?
Yeah, just vehicles.
Okay, yep. So that is a little bit restrictive, but luckily, don't pay the CP if you're not playing against vehicles.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's not like your Lehman Russ is really any worse. Especially if you bust in other ways. But I know we talked about that people have been mitigating against the Imperial Fist, but there are still a ton of vehicles out there in the world, and you're going to see them. Things are sometimes just casual vehicles.
I wonder if someone can do the math on us for us now, because one of the best things for killing the things like the Leviathan is just smashing 1 damage shots through at high strength with a good rend. Like minimum rend 2, so you push it to its invulnerable save. Like 18 shots from a Plasmacutioner, they're all going to be 1 damage, but you're only losing 1 damage from it. It's not like you're doing 6 damage. It goes down to nothing anyway.
So they did the math, and a Warlord Titan can't kill it.
Well, it only kills it less than it was still more average to kill it than not. But the fact that it can shoot it and not kill it is absurd.
Right.
There's only a couple of 1,000 points difference between these two models. And there's only several thousand. There are whole lists that reside in the points difference between this.
But yeah, as we're going with the stuff here, so with if you are fighting a vehicle, I mean, a Dread Knight is a vehicle. Chaplain Dreadnoughts are vehicles. There are things that are out there that people are taking that you could use a Hell of Fire on. Or, like you said, the other tank ace.
When are you ever getting a chance to shoot a Chaplain Dreadnought, sir? I don't know what you're talking about.
Because you've killed everything else in front of it. Screens don't exist anymore.
I mean, well, I will tell you something that's quite good at evaporating intercessors would be one of these tanks shooting at max, like the Relic Battle Cannon shooting 12 shots. All of a sudden, yeah, intercessors that between you and that Chaplain Dread, they're probably not there anymore.
Well, you couldn't max out with this stratagem against dudes. It's only against vehicles.
Of course. Apologies.
But there are ways to buff things up. But see, killing intercessors is not typically hard to do. When you know they're going to be there. Like some things just don't take the rate of fire. Like, I mean, Dark Reapers are still really good at killing intercessors.
Oh God, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, man.
But you don't see them, for several reasons, Dark Reapers. But again, I'm not saying you should always be reactionary to the meta, because as soon as you do, unless you're just a really fast painter, it could change on you. But there are things, even in a guard army or any army, that can put out some pretty efficient 2 damage stuff. Planning to try to beat one singular list, there's all kind of pitfalls that come from that. So really focus on, this is the kind of stuff, especially with stratagems in a book like this, it kind of rewards you for taking the stuff that are characterful for the army. Now, I'm not saying you should be a fluff bunny and chase that either, but, if you're playing Astra Militarum, you probably like using tanks. You probably like getting some infantry dudes on the table. You got tricks now. You got more tricks than you had before. The old tired tricks are good. They're just not as exciting and shiny. Now you got some extra tricks that I think add a lot to the army.
Of course.
They've just added some more depth, and I think depth is always good.
And it's stuff that I think that matters. I mean, we've seen some. We have, since the original Astra Militarum Codex, what was that, 2017 at this point, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2017.
That was correct.
It's a lifetime ago.
Man, I started playing. I played the first 18 months of this edition, and just playing guard. And man, when I think about the guard army I played the indexes to the guard army I'd built now. It couldn't be further apart. Like back then, I had Yarrick. I had between 120 and 220 conscripts. Around one commissar. It was a silly time to be alive. Yeah, around 1 commissar and 1 priest, and they were just like, oh yeah, they're all just and Strachan, and they're all just crazy, buffed up, juiced up, nutters. It was the Wild West. It was actually the Wild West.
I loved it. I ran Guard and Grey Knights and had an amazing time. It was very fun.
Wow, that's brave.
Dread Knights are really good, and a lot of people were taking demons and stuff.
That's true, actually. They were good for a while. And yeah, when everyone was taking all the spanned Malefic Lords and Brimstone Horrors and stuff. Ugh.
Yeah. That was it.
I played a 8 Demon Prince army. It just rolled around and smited you.
I love that. See, people were taking Magnus too, and in a first to the fray Nemesis Dread Knight commander, he'll go over there and beat the crap out of Magnus.
Yeah, punk him.
I really enjoyed that. I don't want to go wax on too much about memory lane. Let's take a quick break, then we'll come back and talk about some of the Tempestus Scion stuff. Actually, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to do another community spotlight segment, and then come back and talk about the Tempestus Scion. This may be a mega show. This may be a really long show.
Nice.
All right, see you in a minute.
Yeah,
nice.
FTN is also on Facebook. Please like us at www.facebook.com/Forge the Narrative.
Hey everybody, welcome to a player spotlight segment of Forge the Narrative. I'm Paul, your host. I'm joined tonight by Daniel Smith.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Yo man, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah man, you are the winner of Season 1 of the Armageddon series.
Yeah, I heard about it and figured I'd give it my best shot. I had no idea it would actually work out.
Well, dude, you played strong the whole time. We're going to talk to you a little bit about what you took and your kind of, I guess, your journey as a tournament player, like what got you into 40k stuff. Just basically kind of highlight what you're all about, man. Let me say thank you for participating.
Yeah, again, thanks for putting it all together and kind of being the one that tied those events together. I thought it was super cool. It's a great idea, and I'm looking forward to it again this year.
Yeah, for folks that may not be familiar, the Armageddon series is a series of independent tournaments that all agreed to participate in some cumulative scoring to crown an overall champion and had people compete. There were 4 events in the series. The top 3 scores counted. So people were able, we set that up that way in case the organizers were able to play. And I actually got to play in a couple of them myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of think, I can't say it benefited me too much, but since John Lennon got to host one of them, that means I didn't have to play against him at that event. So
he has been on fire. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's super tough. And I'm going to talk about him a lot because he kind of had a lot to do with me getting through the Armageddon series and winning the whole thing. So you'll hear his name pop up quite a bit.
Well, I got to meet you, spend a little time with you at the Coastal Assault tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a really fun one. I was really glad to be there and get the opportunity to meet you as well as a few other guys in the community, and that was a fun event as well.
So you were playing the dreaded Iron Hands at that tournament.
Yep, absolutely. And it was the vehicle heavy list, so it's not obviously the most popular list right now, but where it fit right in that meta, it was perfect.
Yeah, I guess right before the Imperial Fist got super strong and a whole lot out there, because that is like a hard counter to some vehicles.
Absolutely. They had just become legal, but I wasn't worried that everyone had wrapped their heads around it yet. So I figured I'd try to sneak in one more event with the vehicles before I tabled the list, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah. I had the fortune of playing an Imperial Fist in that tournament, and it was, had I not gone first, I would have been just putting my models back in the box. I had a flyer heavy Iron Hands during that.
Yeah, I actually did. My round 3 opponent, Jason, brought the Imperial Fists and went first in a Hammer and Anvil, and I thought I was completely screwed, but he actually did the thing where he killed too much and then ran out of things to kill, and I was able to eke back on secondaries.
Oh, nice. That's the best. And we saw that play out a couple times at the LVO even. I mean, it's hard to throttle yourself sometimes. You just kind of see red and go for it.
Absolutely. And that's something I had to learn not to do, because Iron Hands are equally killy against most things. And that's tough to temper yourself, really.
Yeah. Especially when you feel like you're on a roll. Like, man, I've got this, but got to keep your eye on the prize, really.
Yep. Yeah. It's not a 2-turn game. It's a 6-turn game. And you just got to remind yourself of that.
That is some excellent advice. So how long have you been into competitive 40K?
Well, that's a funny question. I thought I was competitive starting in 7th edition, but really it took to this season for me to understand what it really meant to be a competitive gamer and to actually play 40K competitively.
What do you think gave you that change, or what did you realize then about yourself to lead us to now?
Yeah, so
to use a little bit of a negative phrase, is to have some scrub tendencies. And what that means is when you want to win the game, but you want to do it with extra rules that you're putting in for yourself. So for instance, when I played Chaos in 7th edition, I didn't want to run like the Rahadi War Sect with Magnus because I thought that was too cheesy. I'm going to run something else. Well, if the rules allow for you to run it and it's the best possible option, you might as well embrace it and use it because that gives you the best opportunity to compete against other top players. So it kind of took, and you hear negative like, oh, you're a net list or you're this, you're that. To really truly compete at the highest levels, you got to put all that behind you and just say, winning is my goal. And that's what I finally did this year.
Right. And you're not talking about like win at all cost. You're talking about not playing with those, those army list drawbacks, the things that are not efficient. You just want a real efficient list.
Yeah, that's absolutely like perfect. Because to kind of give a shout out to my team, Team Brohammer, our goal is to be those competitive players that are not win at all cost. Yeah. You see it in some of our top level play. Richard Siegler does it. John Lennon does it, is communicate intent. If you do something out of phase, all right, dude, we understand. Go back and do it. We want to make sure that you're having a good, fun game, and afterwards we can go grab a beer together. That's what it's all about. It's not just winning. There's so much more. It's how you win.
That's what it's all about. And people often can confuse. I shouldn't say not everyone, but there seems to be a perception, and maybe we're losing that as time goes by. But people think that the people that bring these like beardy lists are somehow like maybe not good sportsmen or don't really have a love for the game. They're just there for the win. And that's not what it is. But when it comes time for game time, you want to have the best things on the table that you possibly can. And that could be because you're taking advantage of an aggressive rule or something, that plays really well. It may not be good in someone else's list, but you found out how it unlocks a secret sauce in your list or whatever. But you play, but the intent is to have a good time while you're cracking skulls.
Yep, exactly. And to go back to the first GT that I won this year in the Armageddon series, Battle for the Peak, that's exactly what I did. I kind of optimized the way obliterators worked before the FAQ that made you reroll all their stats. And I built in a ton of reroll abilities just to make them highly efficient because obliterators really weren't seeing a ton of use. They got a buff, but they got such a high points increase that it scared people off. But I kind of looked for all those little efficiencies, and you can optimize what people could perceive as a subpar unit, and then it performs really well.
Yeah, it's really nice to see. So, do you have a favorite army?
Yeah, I'm a Chaos player at heart. I've been playing Chaos since the Helldrake was released back at the beginning of 6th edition.
God, I have a love affair with that model, love-hate relationship actually, because I stopped at painting 2 because that trim just wore me out.
Yeah, my first go around with them, because I've owned Helldrakes multiple times. I buy and sell armies a lot. It's a problem. But I did one Helldrake of every single Chaos Allegiance to the primary gods. Then sold the Chaos Army, decided to get them again, painted them again, sold it, and now I'm on the fence. Do I buy 3 more Helldrakes, paint 3 more Helldrakes? It's like 10 total over the course of the last couple years.
Man,
or just kind of let it lie.
I feel you, man. I think that's a hobby champion all to itself, is painting that many Helldrakes. Do you have particular allegiance to Chaos? I mean, I know you mentioned Tzeentch, at least once, but is there a particular brand of Chaos that you like?
Yeah, it's tricky because I like Nurgle and Tzeentch the most, but I don't really like Nurgle Demons, but that's what's been really strong for a long time, so that's what I end up playing. I really like Death Guard and Thousand Suns, and I end up playing a lot of Demons, which they're alright, they're easy to paint, but they're not my favorite.
Yep. Thousand Suns got a bit of a buff recently with the Psychic Awakening. You excited about that at all?
I've got some Thousand Suns Terminators sitting on my workshop that I'm literally looking at while we're talking.
Oh, nice.
I'm excited.
What has attracted you to them? What do you think that they have that can hang in what the current meta is? I mean, like, you know better than anyone. You hang out with some of the guys that pulled down the top prizes this year.
Yeah, so what me and Mark Perry and a couple of the other Chaos players have been kind of discussing is, obviously the Cult of Magic looks like it's going to be the strongest because it just has a raw damage, but I really like the Cult of Duplicity because of just mobility. You get a free deep strike every turn, turns 1 through turn 6. And what that does is I can have a unit of 10 not obliterators, but Terminators sitting on the back line, just biding their time, putting out little pot shots. And then turn 5, if you lapsed in your screen, suddenly I send them forward. I get line of sight onto a Thunderfire cannon or a character. I put 40 shots into them, and they're sitting in cover, just hyper durable. Now you suddenly have a threat on your back line you weren't prepared for. I've spread the table out, and you're kind of pincered. You have got smite spam on one side, and then these hyper durable Terminators on the other side.
So you've got the 2+ save in cover if you need it, and invulnerable save, decent invulnerable save that I think you can buff, right?
Yeah, until they close the loophole, you can get to a 2-up invulnerable save with them.
and then actual bolters kill a lot of things right now.
Yeah, and they're AP2 bolters, so Sisters are going to shrug it off, but almost everything else in the game, high volume of AP2 is incredibly efficient against, and that's exactly what Scarab Occult Terminators are doing.
And they're Terminators, so they'll get the basically always rapid fire type thing, right?
Exactly, and that's huge. To go back to, again, my battle for the peak list, I had a unit of 10 Slanesh Terminators that I would deep strike in, Endless Cacophony, Veterans of the Long War. You put out just 80 shots that are hyper efficient. Well, now with Scarab Occult Terminators, you can do the exact same thing for less CP invested, and you get AP2.
I'm digging it. I think there's definitely some legs in that codex. I mean, it got more than I actually thought they were going to get.
Yeah, I figured we'd get a little bit of buffs to our psychic. The Cult of Magic totally makes sense. It just feels natural for Thousand Suns. But again, the Cult of Duplicity and the layers that it gives us is just great. That really gives you a lot of flexibility. And we got to wait for the FAQs to go on the little minutia, because right now, technically, you can teleport a Fire Raptor if you wanted to. You could fly it up, shoot with it, and then teleport it back to your back lines. But that's probably going to get closed.
You never know. It's hard to judge intent, right?
Exactly.
Well, that's cool that you are modeling and stuff and chaos is your love and get the opportunity to play with it. So, that is nice. Mm-hmm. And then how did you live with yourself playing the Iron Hands?
Well, if you just shave the spikes off of your Chaos Marines, then you got normal Marines. And that's kind of how I looked at it. Exactly. I secretly was serving Tzeentch with this list. They just didn't know it.
That's fair enough. So have you are you kind of setting your sights on playing the Tzeentch Chaos, or what if you had to go to a tournament tomorrow? What would you take?
See, it's funny you asked that, because I'm getting ready for a tournament, and probably Marines, just because it's painted. My Thousand Suns aren't painted yet, and I've got more recent.
If you to take away all the paint, everything's painted, you could have whatever you wanted. What would you take to the next tournament, knowing what you know right now? Until the FAQ, I'd have to take the Broviathan list. Just that thing is such a nasty machine that our team created. So right now, the Broviathan list, as soon as that thing is nerfed, I'm running Chaos into the sunset. I got you. With Tzeentch, you think, or Thousand Suns, or would you? Do you believe in Magnus? You think Magnus is there with the case for him, or?
Man, so all they have to do, and I will take Magnus in every list, is let him get a reactive 3-up invulnerable save, because sometimes you go second and he just dies. If you could use the strat to give him a 3-up invulnerable save turn 1, or if you could deep strike him, either one of those, he would be worth bringing. But unfortunately, until that point, there's just a chance you go second, you don't make enough 4-up invulnerable saves, and he's gone. But aside from that, I do think Thousand Suns have a ton of legs. It's just a matter of getting all the pieces to fit right, because we have a ton of good options in Chaos, but with only 3 detachments, you can't get everything. So you got to figure out the 3 detachments that fit together the best.
Yeah, what I've seen a lot of people using that third detachment to go, kind of Chaos Undivided or Chaos Soup. Well, I have 2 really solid detachments, and then sprinkle in something that is not picking up from those secondary rules, but just has some innate power on it in and of itself.
Yeah, and I like that approach. Personally, my style, I try to maximize the efficiency from every detachment. So I see a lot of people will do a Nurgle battalion where they've got the Poxbringers, the Nurglings, and then they'll splash some Death Guard, Plague Burst Crawlers with the Possess list. But losing out on those Demon strats and losing out on like the Locust of Nurgle, things like that, to me, you just start losing efficiency, and I don't know that what you're gaining is worth it. So I tend to do 3 pure detachments, but the logic behind that third detachment being souped is very sound, and there are a lot of good uses for it.
Yeah, I love Chaos too. Mostly Death Guard. I have a soft spot for Death Guard.
Yeah,
and I'm always looking for ways to make them good. You know, that's so I'm hoping they get some additional, I guess, some treatment, much like Tzeentch did eventually.
Yeah, I'd love that. Ironically, my Death Guard is the army that I have the most pride in my paint job with, and I think looks the best. So I would love to have a reason to put them back on the table.
Man, heck yeah. Well, dude, in the Armageddon series, we had almost 140 unique individuals participate. Again, like I mentioned, across the different events. Season 1 is in the books. You are the champion. As part of that, this one's sponsored by me. I will pick up your ticket to every Season 2 Armageddon series event.
Oh, awesome. Outstanding.
And Season 2 will hopefully be I think I've got some ideas for some sponsors. So if anyone would like to participate towards that, as we form it up, let me know that's out there listening right now. We will figure something out. The tournaments, a couple of the tournaments that were members of Season 1 are a bit in flux, but I think we're going to get that nailed down really soon, and then we'll kick off Season 2.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. And I was already planning on hitting them all. Now I definitely have to.
Well, dude, congratulations. I know it's hard, especially with the competition that we have in the South. I think that this series of tournaments, the cross-section between the events. And by the way, these events were all stellar on their own. Like half of them were already sold out before they even agreed to be a part of the series. So it wasn't like, they were, their clout for the individual tournaments were helping making this thing awesome. And so I appreciate that. But it's a real, I guess, insight into the culture of the tournaments here in the South, and I'm going to continue to try to grow it and see what it is. So, if anyone is running a tournament in this area and would like to be a part of this, please hit me up. And then we can, the requirements are minimal to be a part of this, and we'll make it happen. Yeah, so well, Daniel, again, congratulations again, and I hope you have a good rest of your night. And I will be reaching out to you soon, especially after we get the series of tournaments planned out for Season 2. I'll pick your brain about what you're playing and what you plan on playing coming up soon.
Yeah, awesome. I look forward to it. And again, thanks for hosting the Armageddon series. It was a ton of fun, and if I'm lucky, maybe I'll repeat.
I hope so, man. I'll be pulling for you. Number one champion. Was a 2-time. Is it got to be 3 times before it's a dynasty? But a back-to-back is still important.
Absolutely, and when you have competition like Lennon, Siegler, Mark Perry, and the list goes on and on, the fact that I managed to get 2 GT wins out of it, not just one, still blows my mind. And I doubt I'm doing that again. But
hey, man, you never know, right? But more to come. Anybody listening right now, hold tight. We're gonna take us back into the other section of the show right now. But Daniel, man, I'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.
Sounds good. I appreciate it, brother. Thanks for having me on.
You're listening to Forge the Narrative.
We are back, everybody, here to talk about the Ordo Tempestus.
My boys. So I jumped on these guys when Fantasy died, so I was a big Fantasy head. And when Fantasy faded off into the sunset, I jumped into 40k, and the first army I built was 2,000 point pure Militarum Tempestus army, because that was they'd come out in like the last 2 or 3 months from
Did they have the plastic model at this point in time?
Yeah. They just launched their own range. Like they had the Taurox Prime, they had all the different kits. Well, there's literally 3 kits for the whole army. There's the command squad, there's the non-command squad, and the Taurox Prime. And you got your whole Militarum Tempestus range. But man, I got like 3 of every Taurox variant. I got a couple of Valkyries. I got like 60 foot dudes, and yeah, it was a good time. I still think longingly back to those days.
The models are beautiful. They got bids for days, like just treasure trove.
And they became really easy. I got painting them down pat really easy. Like you don't put them together. You have the legs separate from the chest. You have the arms separate from everything else. So you just stick the head on the chest and you spray that like a red, and then you spray the legs like they're whatever khaki or tan color. Then you stick it all together, and then you fill out the rest of the bits, and then you're like your 3 colors done. And then you wash it.
You got a system.
And I was like, I got it down pat. Well, I painted so many of these little dudes. Like I painted I think it was around 60 of these guys, and so I had it down pat by the end.
Whew, that's a lot of models. Holy crap!
It was, yeah.
Their points wise are not super expensive, so I mean, I think I've sprinkled them into guard armies here and there, especially if there's like some kind of alternate build chart. Like I think last year we used at least 1 or 2 squads of Scions for our Adepticon team army.
Well, I was actually looking, like, because when I heard they're getting a bunch of new rules, and, well, essentially I heard they were getting chapter tactics. Like, they've got, like, 6 different chapter traits, yeah? They've got 6 different options.
Oh, they do? Yeah. Like, the one you were talking about earlier is the Scion Jackals. Each model destroyed by an attack made by a model with this doctrine in your shooting phase is treated as 2 destroyed models in the following morale phase. So that's what you're referring to earlier, is to stack up a bunch of eggs. That's
really cool. So you think about a Leadership 8 Intercessor. Like a squad of intercessors. Usually you kill 2 of those dudes and it doesn't matter. They can't fail on 2. But you kill 2 of those dudes, that counts as 4 of them being dead. And yes, they can fail. You kill 3 of them, that counts as 6 guys being dead. All of a sudden they only pass with a 1 or 2. And on a 4, the other 2 guys bail out of a 5-man squad.
Yeah,
that's huge.
They're thirsty for CPs too. So if you're forcing them to spend the auto pass or making them try to choose which squad to save, and there's...
Yeah, exactly right. And there's the thing, like, you don't need there's no CP here. So, and we don't, like, Tempestus are already very well equipped for killing Marines. The problem is, like, Marines can absolutely slaughter you. Very
well, you got to get it done on one go.
You got one opportunity, one chance. M&M 8 Mile, one opportunity. But yeah, if you can come down and you can hit them hard enough, I think you can do really well. But tell me some more, guys, because I don't know if people have clued on yet, but I'm the one who doesn't have the book in front of me. These 2 gentlemen both have the book. So it's pretty much me just kind of like trying to pull the goodness out of this.
Yeah, so I do
how
like
much we should lie or not lie.
The Toyo Eagles. This is actually not a bad one either. We're resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by a model with this doctrine against a unit that is within half range. An unmodified roll of a 6 scores 1 additional hit.
Nice. That's what they already have, isn't it? Right now, if you take a pure Militarum Tempestus detachment, when you're in half range and you roll a 6 to hit, you get an extra hit with that same weapon. So are you getting these chapter traits in addition to that one?
That's a good question. Here we go.
That would be really cool.
That is one of the traits for the 32 Thetid Eagle. So that's a specific one from that one. So that's a Regimental doctrine for that specific tile of Tempest. So what you do is you pick your it says Tempestus Regiment. You replace that with one of these ones in here. So you can, yeah. So
under that expectation, you would still get the extra shot in half range then, wouldn't you? Because that's what you get for just being Militarum Tempestus. Or are you saying that Militarum Tempestus gets the 6+ extra hit, and then if you replace it with these guys, you get this one instead?
I will give me 1 second. I'll double check. I think what happens is...
Apologies to the viewership. I've just derailed the absolute bojangles out of this bad boy.
It's better to get it right.
While these two gentlemen look it up, if anybody's looking for alternative Scion models, the Palanite Enforcer Patrol from Necromunda, I have my eyes on those bad boys. Like, they look like such good Scion models.
That finally converted me to go full on Necromunda. Like, I'm getting some of those dudes for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, to use them as those guys, not as Scions, but
yeah. But they look like Scions. They look fantastic. I mean, it looks like they've got bolter weapons instead of the hotshot las guns and stuff. But it's not too big a stretch of the imagination. Or if you want to do a bit of conversion work, yeah, I think they look amazing.
So it replaces it. So you can take that ability or take one of the other ones. So Militarum Tempestus Stormtroopers, that was just a Regimental doctrine for just them, and now you have that, or you can pick 5 others. So it's
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, they'd be legitimately like bordering on too strong, maybe not too strong, but too good for their points, because they're very cheap now. I think is it 9 points per dude?
I think so, something like that.
Well, yeah, they send the weapons also. I mean, plasma guns and multi guns and stuff. I mean, that's what you're paying for, and those things are really good at killing Marines. So
at BS 3+ as well, like on a very very good platform. I'm sure if I've got the points wrong, it might be 7 points. Sorry,
I think it's 7 points, and then it's based on. I think it's 7 points, and then it's based on then you pay for the weapon, right? I think that's on top of there.
I can tell you in a second, but the points are not in the book, so they're the same as they are in the chapter approved.
No, fair call. So yeah, tell me more, gents. I am like keen.
So the Lamboan Lions. improve the armor penetration characteristic of weapons models with this doctrine are equipped with by 1. So even things like the hotshot las gun go to like AP 1000.
AP 3, yeah, that's legit. So that would be more legit on things like the Tauroxes. Like the Tauroxes have a baby Gatling gun. Making that an extra AP, that'd be pretty nice.
Do they have the Militarum Tempestus keyword?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, right. They do. Yeah. The Tauroxes get all their bonuses.
Oh, right.
So yeah, that'd be pretty nice. AP2 autocannons, because each Taurox can take 2 autocannons, or a twin autocannon. So yeah, AP2 2 damage autocannons.
They're kind of like the little engine that could. I mean, they are transport.
That's right.
So that's not terrible. They've got multiple guns. That's not bad. So they kind of check off all my value boxes when I'm looking at vehicles.
I wish the model was a little bit better. I mean, it's nowhere near as I grew to like the model as well, but then things like the Rock Grinders and the Ridge Runners came out. I'm like, gosh darn, you guys just
I'm not a huge fan of the tracks, but you can. Everything else I think is fire.
Yeah, I think everything else is good. The tracks are just why. There's a question I have, but look, I grew to love that model quite a lot, so it's awesome.
So the Iotan Dragons add 6 to the range characteristic of rapid-fire weapons models with this doctrine are equipped with. What up, Plasma?
That's nice. Yeah. Well, the hotshot las guns are notoriously bad because they've only got 18-inch range. So it's 9 inches on the deep strike. So you can't be in rapid fire range when you deep strike because you have to be outside 9 inches. So this would let you deep strike, not have to deep strike within friggin' auto charge range after they move. So if your opponent moves 6 inches, they just walk up, and as long as they don't roll snakes, they're going to make a charge into you. So this lets you deep strike further away from them.
But see, you want them to look at your cool looking armor. That's why you're like, yo, look at my armor.
Yeah. So that's actually pretty good. So it lets you double tap the hotshot las guns off the deep strike, which is nice.
Here's the Captic Eagles. Infantry models with this doctrine do not suffer the penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons. When resolving an attack made by a model with this doctrine in a turn in which it disembarked from a transport, add 1 to the hit roll.
So does that say any transport, or is it just...
Yeah, if you disembark from a transport, you add 1
so
to the hit roll.
This is your Taurox one. This is your mechanized one. So Tauroxes don't ignore the penalty for moving and shooting with heavy weapons, and all their weapons are heavy, I think.
This is infantry models with this doctrine do not suffer the penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Disembarking from your Tauroxes with +1 to hit is pretty nice.
What heavy weapons do they even use?
There's only one. It's the hotshot. So it's the hotshot volley gun.
Oh, right.
So it's strength 4 -2. I think it's 4 shots per gun.
I guess my question still stands because I've never seen anyone fire that.
Yeah, well, there's never been any reason to take it because what do? You deep strike and you hit on 4s, and you're already spamming like good AP weaponry as it is across the board. And plus, you could take that, or you could take a plasma gun, and everyone just takes the plasma gun. But so if you ignore the minuses for moving and shooting, because you can take a unit of 10 guys, put it in a Taurox, and in that unit of 10 guys, you can have 4 of these hotshot volley guns. So you can jump out of that and. So wait, they ignore the penalty for moving and shooting, and they get +1 to hit when they disembark.
Yes.
So they hit on 2s, and on top of that, probably the better one here is that you couldn't overcharge. You couldn't kill yourself when you overcharge with your plasma guns when you get over Taurox. That's probably the better bonus here. But let's go with the hotshot. So with the hotshot volley gun,
so we're still firing plasmas.
Yeah. It's still benefits plasma more than anything else. But when you get out, you're going to lay down a good amount of firepower from those hotshot volley guns. If it is 4 shots each, and I believe it is, you got 16 shots coming from that at hitting on 2s, like 16 strength 4 -2 shots. That's not bad against a lot of opponents.
Yeah, I guess it is heavy 4, and I didn't really even think about that.
Well, that's because you never see him because there was no point. And legitimately, you probably still won't see him because plasma is still probably just better.
Yeah.
That's what kills you. You're like, I'll just do plasma.
Yeah.
I could take this, or I could take this obviously better in every way option. Unfortunately.
Do you remember when you did see plasma everywhere when the edition first came out?
When you could take command squads, when you just spam plasma command squads, that was crazy.
I guess I'm just trying to come up with a reason why I might want the hot shot, but the strength 3/4, not sexy.
Here's the reason why I don't mind the hot shots. I was actually thinking of when I was playing with Scions a little while ago. I actually won a tournament running like a full detachment of Scions, and I did not mind them because I play in a meta where there's some quite strong Tyranid and GSC players. Firstly, that profile is very good at killing GSC. Like the -2 means they don't get their 5+ saves. It cuts straight through, wounds them on 3s, so instead of 4s, which is what the hotshot lasguns do. On top of that, the Militarum Tempestus specific stratagem is Auspex scan. So having those 16 shots on a unit of Acolyte with rock swords that come in, or hand flamers that come in, and then you get to shoot them with your 16 shots. On top of that, you still got 5 guys in that unit with hotshot lasguns. So there's 10 shots at strength 3 -2, and then there's 16 shots at strength 4 -2. You shred that unit of hand flamers down really, really well. And that was a little pocket play I had for a couple of my stronger opponents, if that ever came to light. But that was the only reason I was looking for him back then. Hopefully, there's even more stuff in this book that makes it more viable.
Yeah, we're only scratching the surface here so far. So maybe there is. The last one is the Aoten Gorgons. When resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by an infantry model with this doctrine against the closest enemy unit, an unmodified roll of a 6 scores 1 additional hit.
Nice.
Yeah, so another way to get an initial hit, but this is against...
but that doesn't have did that have a range restriction on it? Sorry?
It's just closest enemy unit.
Yeah, so that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, so I don't mind those. And they get some relics.
I think overall, you're looking at like you get stuff. You're like, yeah, you get stuff, which is awesome for an army that obviously you have a lot of love for. So it's great.
What's the build so far? Is it a bunch of Tauroxes with some dudes inside? That's
well. So
you can't just throw these guys out there, or you're. Can you? I don't think so.
You can if you play with madness. If you're playing pure madness, you can.
Iron Maiden.
So usually in a lot of the ETC missions that I end up playing at the moment, they've got player-placed objectives. And so what a lot of opponents will do is that they'll stack a certain flank of the board with like 2 or 3 objectives. What these guys are good at doing is deep striking down and just slaughtering all your objective holders. Like, you don't want to come down and think in this day and age you're going to come down and kill things like Centurions. You're not going to. You can't come down, you can't kill. Hell, you can't, with spamming plasma, you can't even come down and kill a Redemptor that's got an Iron Stone anymore. So what you want to do is you want to come down and you want to take away all of your opponent's board presence, all their scoring ability, and then replace it with something that's really cheap, but actually is harder to kill than you think.
Right.
Because if you take 10-man units and deep strike them into cover, it's still 10 wounds and 3+ armor saves. So it's still essentially the same as a unit of 5 intercessors, but they've just got 1 less toughness. But they do significantly more damage because they're packing 4 special weapons, and possibly a pistol as well. Like, it's 119 or 21 points for a unit of 10 Tempestus Scions with 4 plasma guns and a plasma pistol. Like 120 points. So 360 points for a detachment where you have literally 15 plasma guns. So, it's not terrible. The problem is, like, they do get picked up in short order, very, very, very short order in this environment. But if you're still playing in a thing that isn't dominated by Marines, I don't quite know where that is yet. If you let me know where that is, guys, someone in the comments, let me know there's a meta out there that's not dominated by Marines. I'll pack my bags. I'll come to you. Actually, we'll all come to you. We'll start a new world. It'll be utopia. Life will go on. It'll be fabulous. But past that, actually, you just need to come down and make sure you get a decent exchange. They're good at trading for unit. They are going to get picked up as well, but as long as you get a trade out of them, essentially for the points, it's okay. But I don't think they can be. I don't think they, even with all these buffs, I don't think they can be a thing you build a list around. Like, I don't think you can build a list around a core of 50 or 60 of these guys. You're better off building it around tank commanders and infantry squads, and then chucking in some surgical Scion squads to go down and do. And when your opponent doesn't want them to go, and just go pick up some stuff, set objectives, and try not to die.
Gotcha. I want to slightly amend a couple of things that we were talking about. So the Taurox Prime is the one that gets the Militarum Tempestus keyword, not the regular Taurox. It has the Regimental.
No, the regular Taurox isn't actually in the Militarum Tempestus line.
And we were talking about when you get the Tempestus Regiment. So Militarum Tempestus units in your army gain the Tempestus Regiment keyword. When you include a unit with the Tempestus Regiment keyword in your army, you must nominate which Tempestus Regiment it is from.
Feels murky. Feels like, yeah.
I think it just replaces. I think it just basically says this is now what it is.
The relics here. There's a really cool chainsword. I don't think you want to be chainsword.
I definitely want to get into combat. Do you know how keen I am to get into combat with my Scions? So keen. So keen. I hope everyone can feel my keenness through the internet.
So there's distraction charges. This is for the Captive Eagles only. When resolving an attack made by a friendly, when resolving an Overwatch attack made by a friendly Captive Eagles model within 3 inches of a model with this relic, if the attack scores a hit, that target is slowed until the end of that phase. When a charge roll is made for a slowed unit, have the result rounding up.
That's cool. I'm always down for those mechanics. They always add a lot, and I feel like they're necessary for armies that don't want to get charged. Because now to get there are so many. They keep adding all these ways to get charges now because I guess they've noticed how punishing it can be. But yeah, I like that a lot.
Well, we're talking. That's the one that gets to get out of the transports and not take the neg-1, or to get the +1 to hit when they're firing out of a transport, and then don't get the neg-1 for removing any fired heavy weapons. How do you trigger this? So you score a hit or a wound? Yeah, this is when you're firing Overwatch. If you score a hit, then they're slowed. You don't have to wound.
That's nice. And do you know what procs that really well? 16-shot hotshot volley guns. You're going to get a hit, baby.
Plasma guns don't suck either, it's still it's still good.
It still says you just need plasma guns. I think you just need plasma guns.
Yeah.
I know. But the world doesn't need any more plasma.
So there's a neat Warlord trait. So the Scion Jackals get a redeploy. The same thing like we see. You can redeploy up to 3 units, remove them from the battlefield, set them up again as described in the deployment phase.
Oh, wow. So that means you can, because every Scion unit can deep strike, so that means you can pick up your infantry and just be like, oh, yeah, I didn't like how you infiltrated your dudes right in front of me, all those combat scouts in Blood Angels. I'm just going to put them back in reserve now. That was a bad deal.
Yeah.
You can't, I don't think you can do reserve. I think it says, it's the same thing that happened with the other ones where when you redeploy, you're not in that phase where you get put in reserve, so you have to actually deploy it. Remember that's that weird one with the Ultramarines, right? Where you couldn't actually put them back somewhere. You're like, oh.
Oh, really?
I thought
they were, you do chuck them in reserve as you deploy them.
Right, so you pick reserves.
It's not like a CP or anything.
Yeah, reserves you pick at the beginning of before as you deploy. Say I'm going to deploy some reserves, and then once that phase is already it's something to do with you couldn't infiltrate those dreadnoughts anymore, right? Am I right? Am I wrong? I'm different with their stratagem.
Oh, wait a second. Okay, here's the thing how it works. At the start of the first battle round, but before the first turn begins, that's when you're doing the redeployment. So that would be, I think where it would trigger then is that you set them up in deployment. You're not in deployment. You're at the start of the battle round, and maybe that is what the deal is.
There you go. That's what it is. It's something weird. I was like, it's something weird where they basically said that it doesn't work anymore because of the fact you're already out of deployment. So the only time you can put stuff in deep strike is in that deployment stage or during the game with a stratagem, after the game has started.
In max range or move range. I mean, that's still, I think, a very powerful thing. I mean, we talk about it. It's kind of uncredited, but it is anytime you can do it. I think, especially you're not actually burning any CP for this. You're just doing it as your Warlord trait.
Yeah, this is the new one that just started adding to Awful Legion have one as well that does a similar thing, and so it's really useful when you're because now they've moved away from it's only D3 units. Now it's you just do 3 units. They knew that it was so annoying when you rolled that 1. You're like, well, I guess my Warlord and the dude gets to move out of the way. Good job.
Jump into the stratagems, if you guys don't mind. Gifts from the Mechanicus is, I hate to even mention this because it's going to give some credit to Adam's whack job theories. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a 133rd Lambdan Lions unit from your army is chosen to shoot with, until the end of the phase when resolving an attack made with a hotshot las gun, hotshot las pistol, or hotshot volley gun by a model in that unit. An unmodified wound roll of a 6 inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target, and the attack sequence ends.
I'm a fan.
That's 1 CP.
Yep, I'm a fan. That relatively cheap squad. You got 10 hotshot lasgun shots and the 4x4, so 16 hotshot volley gun shots. So 26. You're likely to get 4 mortals in that on top of things. If you get very lucky, you get 6 mortals or something out of it. That's not terrible for 1 CP.
This is the regiment that gives the neg 1 to AP also. So you're actually you're probably going to get some more of your kind of incremental damage and mortal wounds on top of that.
More of everything. So that was the wound roll, an unmodified wound roll of 6?
Yeah, wound roll, yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Just putting it out there. I'm already looking at Goliath trucks, thinking like, yeah, that's a good Torox. Except it's 100 Australian dollars for a Goliath truck.
I don't envy you on that. Just let me know when you want to make a big bulk purchase. I'll just mail you something.
Just ship it over to me? Good man.
I mean, it's got to be cheaper than getting some of that. Right? I don't know.
A Torox is 55 and a Goliath truck is 100. They're pretty much the same thing, aren't they?
There's a lot of bits and
almost double.
There's a ton of bits on that Goliath.
Yeah, so it's the fact that they're both multi-part kits. They're both got two variants. Like you can build a Torox or a Torox Prime. You can build a Rock Grinder or a Goliath truck. So yeah, don't you defend them, Paul.
Well, look, I'm not a big fan of like models on other models, so I can guarantee you that none of those cultists are going to be on that truck if I ever build one of those. So that's just basically wasting.
Yeah, 100%. 0%. The only one I'd consider is Harlequins.
Sure, yeah, because they're part of the model. I don't think you can get away with that. Yes.
Oh man, the Harlequin ones. I did a commission for them, and oh my lord, that was a pain in the butt to build them. You're like, oh, these are so fiddly.
Okay, here's another one. Point blank efficacy. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a Militarum Tempestus unit from your army is chosen to shoot with until the end of that phase when resolving an attack made with a hot shot las gun, hot shot las pistol, or hot shot volley gun by a model in that unit against a unit within half range. Add 1 to the strength characteristic for that attack.
Now that's sexy.
You're saying too much to him. You're getting too excited.
I am. We might have to move on to Tau just to cool me down, because God knows that'll cool me down.
So I mean, 1 to the strength on stuff. I mean, that's kind of one of the drawbacks is that you're needing 5s to wound a lot of things. You might get it up to needing 4s.
Yeah, well,
one day.
I hate to harp on about that hotshot volley guns, but they go to strength 5 -2, and all of a sudden they're better heavy bolters.
That's a good point. I mean, they don't have the 36-inch range, but
yeah,
I guess you could move and fire them. So
did you say in half range they become +1 strength?
Yeah, in half range.
Oof. Yeah, so you can deep strike them into half range, which is nice. But then once again, you're copying that -1 to hit. Because this isn't the Capic, guys. This isn't the ignores negatives to moving and shooting.
This is for anybody. This is a no regiment-based stratagem. Anybody can use it.
Ooh, actually, okay. Then this is good now.
So the dragons, the ocean dragons, that add 6 inches to the rapid fire range.
Yeah, there's some teeth here.
For its 1 CP, I mean, I guess, look, if your plan is to throw some dudes out there and shoot, you're going to want to shoot better, right?
Yeah. Hey, does your army shoot? Would you like to shoot better?
It's like this, Paul's like, I'm going to give you some advice from a competitive player. Just get good.
Just shoot better.
Yeah. Thanks, Commissioner Paul.
But this does
I got you.
I mean, that's actually one of the huge, like, I guess I would rather see this as almost like an army-wide buff, for dedicating to just Scions, maybe, to get a little bit better equipment or maybe a thing, because you just don't want one unit doing this. But I guess it's better that you can have at least one unit doing this.
Exactly. I mean,
maybe
I think
maybe this needs to be immune to the, command and reserve, like match play rule. Just burn come down, burn your 9 CP to have all 9 units fire +1 strength. You can't do that. I'm saying that'd be neat if you could, but this is something
that'd be crazy.
Well, I mean, talk about dump and pump.
I don't know if you guys want to touch on another faction from this episode, or if we're going to leave that for another episode. But I'm keen for this book. Very keen.
Well, the hammer. No. Let's get one more stratagem before we decide if we can move on to something else. The hammer below is use this stratagem in your shooting phase when the model is destroyed by an attack made by an Aeronautica Imperialis model with a flyer battlefield roll from your army. That destroyed model's unit is pinned until the start of your next turn. Have the result of any advanced and charge rolls made for pinned units. When resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by a model from a pinned unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll.
I like this a lot.
Aeronautica Imperialis. So I think your options for what you use this on are incredibly limited. Both in the fact that there aren't too many of those, but there's only one really good one, I think, and that's the Vulture.
Well, there's also the Vendetta as well.
Vendetta. But yeah, it's such an awkward spot right now.
A real weird spot.
It's in a real weird place. It's just an odd. Remember how popular and powerful it was back in the day when it first came out?
Oh, they were everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I loved them. Like, cool looking model. It's got that, it evokes a lot of both nostalgia and still 40k at the same time. And
Yeah.
shooting las cannons is fun.
Absolutely, it is. So it's a Valkyrie, Vendetta, and the Vulture. Is there any other options?
Isn't there like the Thunder? Aren't there like some of the bigger ones, like the Thunderbolt?
Yeah, I think the Thunderbolt. Yeah, that sounds right.
I'm actually just going into Forge World now because pretty much apart from the Valkyrie, these are all Forge World models.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to make quick gaze.
But I believe they all get that Aeronautica Imperialis keyword, I believe.
Yeah, I think so too. I might as well just go in the battlefield role to go to flyers, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
And that's all of them, in the Guard.
Yeah. So we have Imperial Navy, so we have Avenger Strike Fighters, Thunderbolt Heavy Fighters. I think they both are, and the good old Arvis Lighter, Imperial Arvis Lighter. Look at you. You go, dude.
Isn't it a transport? It holds like 6 models or something?
Yeah, it is. And it just looks like you're well, how do I say this without insulting numerous people? It looks like you're.
It's kind of like a Volkswagen, doesn't it?
It does. It legitimately does. I was going to say it looks like a hamster or a gerbil. It turns into a plane.
Larry has one that's pretty well painted, and it's really funny because you're looking at like, this thing is just, why?
Yeah.
Well, it used to be
what?
Back in a long time ago. You could screen Titans with it. Back when you couldn't charge. So you would take one of those things, put it in front of a Warhound, and your Warhound was essentially immune to being connected with.
I mean, it doesn't even have a gun. It doesn't even have a gun, does it?
I don't think so. I don't think it has a gun.
I remember an Adepticon that John Wolf won because of that rule.
Yeah, that's truth. That's real truth. One more stratagem: the Daring Descent. This is for the Gorgons. Until the end of that, use the stratagem in your movement phase. Select 1/9 Iotan Gorgons unit from your army that was set up in high altitude transport. Until the end of that phase, when you set up a unit on the battlefield using the aerial drop ability, that unit must be set up more than 5 inches away instead of 9 inches away. You can't charge with them. I don't know why you would, but you can't. I can think of several reasons, but why you might, but you can't.
Yeah. Well, so what does this benefit? I mean, you're already you would get into rapid fire range of your hotshot las guns.
Melter guns.
Double the output.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Melter guns and flamers, wouldn't it? That'd be the two biggest beneficiaries.
Wait, are melter guns even a thing anymore? I didn't know they were still around.
Yeah, dude. I've been saying this for a whole edition. They need another rule. They need to have like +1 to wound in half range or something. Something. I agree. I think it's the lack of like, you're like, I mean, how many games you play where like, well, I did not wound. All right, good job, melter gun. Yeah, trying to use a melter gun versus a knight, you're like, well, I'm either going to kill a quarter of you or 0%. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think the only good melter guns are on thermal cannons on double chaos knights.
Yeah, literally. So do you want to know what the best model in the game is? I think it's a devil dog. It's the melter cannon hellhound variant. If you take that model, you're a champion. Because literally, you could have gone and purchased a brick, hit yourself in the face with that brick, and you'd probably be happier than using that model. I used to run it just a joke. And I used to go charge people with it. So I was like, there's no good actually trying to shoot the damn thing. Charge, boy, go.
Luckily, the new Hellhound model, it's modular. You don't have to glue in any of the weapons. They just slot in. So you can, like, I have the option of taking that thing. I never have, but it's there if you need it.
It's like I played a tournament where I played with 3 Mauler Fiends because I hate myself, and I was like, "Look, I'm just gonna play. I'm gonna play under every game." And I think I had one game where one survived and ran around the table. So like, I obviously I know what I'm doing. I'm playing under 400 points. It's okay. Don't worry about me.
That's it. You got to play with the models you love sometimes. Well,
I love them.
So some extra rules for the Scions. Scions are going to struggle right now. I mean, I think that getting down and trying to get all your business done in what is essentially one turn with your toughness 3 models with their mid-range weaponry is asking for a lot. I don't think that they're a strong singular faction. I think that you need to include them as maybe one detachment or, with something else.
Why are you doing a Debbie Downer for Adam? Why are you doing so mean?
Hey, you could take 8 units of hotshot volley guns or whatever, and you're still not spending a ton of points. You can do it.
Damn straight, baby.
Adam's like, you can do it, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to listen. Yeah. I'm not listening to you, Dad. I'm going to be a dancer. It's what I believe in.
You can make a stout guard army and then put in one detachment of these guys and still do all right. You're probably going to win as many games you were doing if you were mono guard.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring back the pimp wagon. I'm going to get my shadow sword out. I'm going to dust him off. I'm going to fill it full of Bullgrin. I'm going to put all the buffs I can on it, and then every other model in the army. Whatever I put inside that is going to equal 1,000 points, so that I can put 1,000 points of Scions in reserve, and that'd be my whole army. My Stormlord full of dudes and Bullgrin, and my whatever, how many Scions I get for 1,000 points.
I support that. You're going to get a bunch. What is that? Like, that's almost 100 Scions, I think.
It'd probably be like 60, 70, 80 Scions.
Yeah.
Show you, Dad. Nice. I make my own decisions.
Then we have a montage. Then we have like a training montage. You gotta be. And you get there's like. And then at the end of it, it's just a slow scroll. Adam went 0-18 at a tournament. There's only six. There's only 6 rounds in the game.
I do think you're going to win in just as many. I think you go 5-1. I think you could win a 3-rounder with that.
I wish I could post that you underestimate my power meme from Star Wars, where he tries to do the flip over and gets his legs cut off. That's pretty much what's going to happen. I say to Paul, you have no idea. I'm going to smash people, and I'm going to go 1-4. Yep. The win I get is because I'm at the bottom table round 5, and the other guy doesn't rock up.
I just think you're going to struggle a lot with trying to come down. Like, the shtick of the Scions needs a lot of help, and I don't know if you're going to get there with because the vultures are only so good. It's just a tough road to hoe. That's what I'm saying.
So things with no rend just aren't that great at the moment. Like, the vulture can come down, and you could come down and you could kill 10 intercessors, or you could kill 2 intercessors with that vulture. The variance on that now, due to how resilient everyone's making everything, or trying to, due to how. So a vulture used to kill more infantry than you could imagine, Used to come down and be like, okay, that infantry squad, pick it up. There's almost no need to roll the dice. Now, there are whole factions that do that, that represent that same level of efficiency and overwhelming damage. So I feel like the game is caught up, if not overtaken, the vulture. But holy crap, that model is fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I remember playing an event where it's like a vulture's like, all right, I'm going to shoot your 5 Chaos Space Marines in train, and he didn't kill one of them. And it's like, that shouldn't have happened. I'm like, sure.
But here's the other thing. There are a lot of different loadouts for the vulture. You can take a bunch of hunter-killer missiles on it. You can take a bunch of anti-armor options on it. Maybe that's the way you go now. Maybe the Punisher isn't just the obvious best choice anymore.
Yeah, very true. But I think you just got to use, to not, again, sorry not to be the Debbie Downer, but I think you got to use these guys like a scalpel. So if you're going to include them in your army, you got to have a real clear niche you're trying to fill that is a companion to some other list. It could be guard. The guard, they are also pretty cheap. You could have a real stout section of guard and then fill in the gap or whatever that thing wasn't doing, whether that be board control, whether that be late game objective grabs or whatever, with the Scions, and then build around that. Pick whatever regiment, planet, or whatever they come from that helps that.
Well, I can tell you that I've pivoted off infantry squads almost completely at the moment. I just think infantry squads are free kills for your opponent in the current meta. You put down your loyal 32, and it's all of a sudden it's the loyal 2 at the end of turn 1 because there's only commanders left. I feel like Scions. Firstly, it's cheaper. 5 Scions are cheaper than 10 infantry. And you can put them in reserve for 3 turns. And then, they don't give up kills for 3 turns.
And you can put, impressive weaponry on them. there are things to do with them.
Yeah. They legit, 3 units of 5, that means you can give them 6 special weapons and a pistol on each sergeant. You could have between them, so it is 5, you can have 15 plasma shots off the drop, off 15 guys. So pretty much plasma shots for each dude. You do strike down with those guys that you just used to fill a battalion and then sprinkle some special weapons in. And you come in and, you actually do some meaningful damage with those guys who were just going to be attacks. So I think there is a lot of play there, but I feel like the ceiling on how good they can be has been brought down a bit just due to how, firstly, killy everything is, and then how many ways people have to negate your deep strike goodness, like things like War Spec Scan, things like infiltrators, things that literally just either bubble out and deny your deep strike, or ways people have of making you deep strike and do nothing. Like, if you have to deep strike outside 12 inches from assault centurions or intercessors with the assault bolters or whatever, because if you deep strike within 12, you just auto expand and you're dead. Do you know how much worse the plasma guns get when you only get like one shot per dude? Wowee. Turns out they're pretty awful, because I've done that.
But then you just incentivize you just want to overcharge them, then get that value. Then you pick up half your.
Well, the thing is, you're pretty much always going to overcharge anyway, because you should be expecting them to die the turn after they come down. So there's really no reason not to overcharge. Come down, do literally every iota of damage you can, and then don't be sad when they get picked up.
Exactly. You don't care. You're like, whatever. It's the kill you're going to get. So you know that turn you might not get more kills, but you're going to do enough damage where you can kind of catch up and don't worry about it, because you basically have ignored enough of the other kills and hope that you've done okay.
That was what I was saying before. If you come down and use the Scions to kill what people usually use to hold objectives with, all of a sudden you've created a bit of a displacement in how things snowball score-wise. And that's what I like them the best for. People like to entrench things behind the other side of ruins. Unit of 10 Scions comes down. There's not much that they won't kill that's hiding out of line of sight. Even like a unit of 3 Custodes, they'll come down, they'll kill. 10 guys, especially if they've got an order. They've got quite a good chance of killing that. If they don't, you've probably got Basilisks and Wyverns and Manticores to try and pick that last wound up or two. But that's what I like them for. I like them to come down and take away your board presence, and because you're replacing their board presence with your board presence by deep strike.
The things that's always impressed me with the Scions is that they trade efficiently. So if you are trading like unit for unit with an opponent, you've invested less in that, and I think that's an advantage.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think that's the big benefit on them is that you are not investing a ton, which is why, again, something to think about as a Scion, as you're wanting to be as your Scion fanboy like Adam. I don't think the investment's that bad there. I mean, the biggest problem with Guard right now is that sometimes you just don't kill something. Like you're like, it's hard for me to kill stuff sometimes, or some of the stuff is so tough to get rid of. And you're like trying to get over there. Like, remember how bad mortars were for so long, and where do you see mortars anymore? You just don't. Because it's like it just doesn't matter. Like they don't kill anything. So
there's a stratagem in the book for the Guard that help out the heavy weapon squads. That would include mortars. Maybe those come back off the shelf. We'll see. I mean, not to derail us, it's a mega long show right there. So I think Thomas, actually talk about the Bowls Open coming up for a minute, and then we'll take another break.
Well, we got a Bowls Open June 13th, 14th. So I am running the 40k event on there. So you won't have to worry about facing me or facing my 3 stupid Lords of Skulls. It will be an ITC event, basically looking at whatever kind of ITC is running or anything that's running currently at the time. That's where we're going to go run it. So come on out, have a good time. Austin's a great place. We have good food. There's a beer hall near us. I'll be around yelling at people as usual. We have an amazing special edition shirt that I drew up on the website for the VIP, which is Emperor Willie. It's a good time. It's going to be great. We're going to have a whole lot of fun, and hopefully we'll see who's going to crown out but maybe by that time Marines aren't as nearly as bad. I would tell Adam to come up, but I think coming to Texas might be hard, even though it's kind of Australian. A lot of people from Australia like Texas. So
I hear good things about Texas. I am very keen to visit one day.
Well, we'd love to have anyone go there come up. It should be a fun time, and we're going to try to do this every year. We're building a whole lot of terrain. It is nuts how much we're building.
Austin is a really great town. It's very culturally rich. A lot of you mentioned great places to eat, but there's lots of things to do. So if you do kind of make it out after the tournament, you will not be bored. That is for sure.
No, and it's like I said, we're kind of centrally located in Austin. We're going to be pretty easy to get to off the highway from the airport, and it's going to be a great time. Everyone should definitely try to come out. I'm going to try to chalk it up and hopefully get some more, and we'll have some other fun stuff coming up.
I'll put some links in the show notes for people, because registration is open right now. People can get tickets, I believe.
Yes, we are open. There's an early. I think the early bird special just went off, but we are still open. We have tickets. We're going to have 40k event, AOS event. There's an awesome narrative run by the narrative guys. Wonderful guys. Super awesome event. I think I'm doing some art for them in the next couple of days. We've got X-Wing's going to be there. I think we're just opened up the new Marvel game is a Crisis Protocol.
Crisis Protocol, yep.
So that's going to be up there. We'll have some other games showing up. So definitely come on out. Whatever you like to play, we will probably be throwing something down on the tables. And like I said, we've got some crazy nutty terrain that we're working on. So we're we're going to try to do a thing where there's I think there's 5 different sets of tables as we rotate through it. So you have a heavy terrain to lower terrain based on everything else, but we're trying to get this heavily set up with very distinctly set up terrain where it's not just shooting galleries or it's not just crazy heavy terrain. There's definitely mixtures of it, so it gives a little bit of strategic elements based on the actual terrain pieces.
Nice. I will put the link in the show notes. Check it out. Check out that lodging and get some tickets. Let's take a quick break. I'm going to come back and then talk about, I got another segment to insert. Again, the monster show. People, you might have to have 2 or 3 commutes to listen to all this one. And then I'll come back with a hobby segment talking about adhesives. It may sound boring, but this is more a cautionary tale, so you don't make the same mistakes that I did. See y'all in just a little bit.
FTN is brought to you by Discount Games Inc. Please visit them at www.discountgamesinc.com. And don't forget to ask Jay about ways to save even more on your hobby projects.
Hey everybody, welcome to a Player Spotlight segment. My name is Paul, your host. I'm joined tonight by Red Powell.
Hey everybody.
Red, is that your full name?
So that is a nickname. That is not my actual name, but it is something I've gone by since middle school, so we'll stick with it.
So Redicles, is that your full name?
Is my first name.
Oh, I was going to guess several more before you actually said it.
That's okay. We'll stick with Red.
You're remarkable for many things. We're on the back of the LVO. You played decently well. I think you went 5-1?
Well, so I can say I appreciate the word crafting on this. I only technically lost once. To be fair, I did tie twice. So I was 3, 1 loss and 2 ties. But I had a blast, especially for the fact that I was playing an all Khorne army the entire time. So
it wasn't just all Khorne. The army was themed in itself. You had 56 units, which means they're divisible by 8. I think you had...
Yeah,
or 56 models and then 8 units or something. Let me know how it all shook out.
Yeah, so I had 56 models. I was trying. I definitely put some effort into this. If I didn't put everything into the transports that I could, I had 16 drops, so also divisible by 8. I tried to swing it as much as I could, but every Berserker unit and the Red Butcher unit I had, those were 8-man squads as well. And so it was kind of serendipitous that it worked out with the 8, and then total 56 divisible by 8 and 16 drops technically. All that. I had a ton of fun, man.
So how did you do anything with that list? The LVO.
Well, so one, I accepted what I was going into, right? I knew I was going into a shooting meta. I also, when I walked up every single game, I walked up to the other person and, shook their hand. It was nice to meet them and everything. When we started talking about our list, I said, look, I'm a level 4 NPC. I'm going to charge directly at you. I'm not going to do anything else. And all you got to do is play tower defense and stand back and shoot me, and you should win. And that's it. That's all you got to do.
And they think you're messing with them?
I think some people laughed. They saw the 3 Disco Lords, and they saw the 3 Dread Claws, and I was up front. I was like, hey, look, the Disco Lords advance and charge. I can use the new Faith and Fury stuff to put the Berserkers in the middle of the table at the beginning of the game if I want, so on and so forth. And I think some people were a bit taken aback just at the speed, I guess the violence that the Khorne list hit with, which is kind of my point. And the nice part is I had play tested it to a degree. I've been playing variations of this list all season. I started out with 3 Bloodthirsters instead of 3 Disco Lords. I've just been having a blast. But I tell you what, until Faith of Fury, I've been joking around because I supercharged those Berserkers with those Faith and Fury stratagems.
Yeah, they get a lot of fighting again, stuff like that.
Oh man, so not only are they fighting again, but so I can increase their AP, so most of their attacks, their axes are all AP -2. Veterans of the Long War for +1 to wound. Another one that it increases death to the False Emperor. And so when one squad goes through, it's just crushing. And there's a lot of weight behind it. And then I use the other stratagem so they consolidate 6 inches. And so you're talking
That'll
about
catch people.
Oh man, they were covering a remarkable amount of ground. And so once I got them into the fight, it wasn't a done deal or anything, but it was, I had a lot of fun. I mean, my one loss to Kyle Perry, it was such an amazing game. He had Eldar, he put them all on the back, every single model that he had was pretty much touching the back of his deployment edge, just so he could create space before I got there. And he toughed it out, and that loss was a 19-17, so it's not like...
That's a tight loss.
Yeah, it wasn't there wasn't really much of these games where I felt like I just got steamrolled.
It'd be even worse if it was like a 25-26 where you both thought you were winning. That's what...
Right. Yeah, exactly. But so to be fair, I only played I played 2 Imperium armies, and only one of those was Space Marines. And one of the one with the Space Marines, that was against Raven Guard, and that was a game I tied.
That's it. What did you have for the Raven Guard?
So he had like the Centurions and Eliminators and Sniper Scouts with.
No, what did you have that dealt with them?
So that was one. I admit, in most of my games, I had charges get off in the first turn. That was the first big game where I had only one of my charges got off out of the 3 that I wanted to make, and so that kind of hurt. That hurt a lot, actually. But to be fair, one Disco Lord did kill an entire, I think it was a 5-man squad of Centurions.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so I did not complain.
You say, of course you did, right? But, the Centurions are a little bit more durable than a lot of people think. And then if he hadn't, the one Centurion swinging on anything is going to do enough to do a lot of wounds, might even kill it.
Oh, yeah. No, that was a big push, because he transhumaned, and I used my Demon Forge deal to reroll hits and wounds.
Yeah.
And so, it was messy, and I was really glad. I think I killed most of the Centurions, and the one Centurion that was left just wasn't enough to get that punch in to really disable or to take out the Disco Lord. But then I ended up killing it in the ensuing part. But that was tough. That was really tough, because he sat in the back, and then when his stuff came in, because he used the Raptor Chapter Master from Forge World, he brought in his scouts that way. Bill Kim, that's who I played against. He played a great game. And we recognized we were around 6, and we both already lost. We weren't playing for top tables or whatever. Bill was enjoying himself quite a bit. We had a great game, and so that was a great end to the overall event for me.
Now you normally play Necrons, and
so I played Necrons last year. My goal last year was to be the number 1 Necron player, which is what I was able to achieve. And then this year, my goal was to be the number 1 Khorne player, which I then achieved. And so Necrons was definitely, I've played Chaos back in 2017. Before I jumped to Necrons, I was playing 60 Berserkers that were Alpha Legion that I started 9 inches away from everybody's units.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot of fun. That was back in the days of Super Chicken. That's where our mutual friend John Marshall just wiped me off the table with Super Chicken and Magnus.
We may or may not have helped him create that list.
Well, it was a good one, because it totally cleaned my clock for sure.
Oh, so what's next for you?
So I'm doing this. I'm the team captain of the U.S. Army eSports Warhammer 40k team.
Yeah, tell us just a little bit about that.
So it's this awesome outreach program that the Army has. That it's an initiative they've started in the last year or so, and the Warhammer 40k team was started originally by Raymond Fain, that some people might know. He's out of the Southeast right now. But so he started this effort with Warhammer 40k under the U.S. Army eSports initiative, and then he brought me on, and then he had to step away because he had some other awesome professional opportunities he was going to pursue. And so I took over the team. But the whole deal, we call it at-large team. So we're, our mutual friend JP, he's a ROTC instructor. He's on the team. Staff Sergeant Shane Watts and Captain Ivan Cho. They're different jobs, but out of Maryland. There's Staff Sergeant Jason Ryder out of Washington State. Wes Talley's he's in the same vicinity as Raymond Fain. So all of us, we're all over the place, because I'm in Kansas right now, right? I'm not in Kentucky anymore. And so we're all spread out, but we're all on the same team. Yeah. And so the effort is, like I said, an outreach program. So it's pretty awesome, because we get to go represent the Army playing Warhammer 40k,
I'll twist your arm.
Yeah, right. I know. And so the nice thing is that it's what we would have been doing anyways, right? It's not like we wouldn't have been going.
Yeah, but it's with a purpose. I mean, I have to imagine you may be contacting people that could be on the verge of doing something, going a totally different direction in their life, and you're now giving them two options to do with their life: a military service, which can be rewarding on its own, take you to places and teach you things you never knew you could do, or wargaming, which is kind of like that exactly.
Yeah, no, absolutely, right. And so that was, I don't know if you got a chance to see, I recently had an article that I put out in regards. So I'm in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas right now, not for the wrong reasons, but I'm here.
That sounds dangerous.
Right. No, but I'm here going to CGSC, the Command and General Staff College, and I'm actually getting a master's here in wargame design. And so I've got all these things coming together regarding wargaming between what I'm currently doing in my studies and with the U.S. Army eSports team and my hobby on the side. Mm-hmm. And so it's pretty awesome, man, being able to talk to people about what the Army's doing with wargaming and what it's doing with eSports and its efforts to try and reach out to people they're out, because I've had a remarkable amount of people come up and ask questions about it, whether it was people who are not affiliated with the military, who are interested in it, or people that are, or, have gotten out and retired, or veterans, or are reservists. And I really think that there's an awesome, your show is a great example of the awesome community that is in wargaming. And I know, we're specifically Warhammer 40k. But your show it's an example of the community, and I think that the Army has a lot of potential with us being able to do this outreach deal in regards to all these folks that are engaged in wargaming. They've got a natural inclination to military affairs, and so I think that there's a lot of awesome potential to this program.
Oh, good, man. I hope it keeps up. I mean, I know you have some really talented people involved.
Yeah, so JP, everybody, so there was 4 of us at LVO, and we all did what I would say is a pretty amazing job. Ivan and Shane, they both went 4-2. JP went 5-1. I think JP was in 56th place at LVO, and all 3 of those guys did really well as far as overall ITC placing. And the nice thing is, so I've got more to follow. It's going to go out, and I'm going to start pushing out the information. But we're essentially opening up for new teammates going forward. Now, of course, the actual team, like the pro team for the U.S. Army eSports is active duty only. But I do think, again, when I talk about the community, and there were some people who asked me about it at LVO, I do think that there is an avenue to engage the community at large with U.S. Army eSports community. And so I'm very interested in talking to a lot of the veterans and reservists, National Guard, retirees, anybody that's interested, and those that aren't, and those that haven't been affiliated with the military yet. I think that it's a great entry point to engage with them as well. And so I'm really looking forward to engaging with folks on that front.
That's pretty cool. I think you've got the right outlook for it to find people that match a certain set of criteria, but also that part of that criteria is having a general love for the game and wanting to see it grow.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
That's pretty cool. So what's next? What is next for you? Army-wise, what do you, I shouldn't say Army-wise because you're in the Army. You can tell me anything or not tell me something. I don't know. Like, what are you going to play with next?
Yeah, so 40k wise, I just spent the last year playing Chaos Space Marines without any psychic powers. I'd be lying if I said I'm not tempted. So I'd like to try out this thing I guess people talk about a lot called Warp Time and Death Hex and stuff like that.
Those are pretty good powers.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try and branch out into a little more broader Chaos Space Marines. Nurglings. Back in 2 years ago when I was playing with Chaos Space Marines, I had Nurglings for board control and things like that. I'm looking forward to bringing kind of the whole toolbox into the fight instead of just playing with the hammer the whole time.
Nice.
So I'm going to try that out. I tell you what, I'm also I have been collecting off to the side Blackstone Fortress models, particularly like the Trader Guard.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really interested to see these updates. And I mean, they might kill it, they might not, but I'm interested to see what the as GW announced the new Forge World indexes.
Mm-hmm.
I'd really like to see what they do with Renegades and Heretics. And again, if they get rid of them, that's okay. I can still use those Blackstone Fortress models as cultists.
Yeah, there'll always be something. Humanoid goobers with a bolter gun, or a las rifle.
Exactly. And so I might try out if Renegade and Heretics go away, I might try Guard, just make them look very, very chaotic.
Yeah, man, well, cool. Well, dude, thanks for coming on and talking with me. Hopefully, as this continues to grow for you and the program for the esports, Army esports, we can check back in with you. And we'll be catching up at these tournaments.
Yeah. Hey, I really appreciate the time, Paul. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for allowing me to talk about the U.S. Army esports and what's really important to me right now, and letting me share in this awesome endeavor that your show has had with the wargaming community.
Is there a place where people can go and learn about the Army esports program, like a website or something, or a Facebook page, or how can people hit you up to learn more about this?
So on Facebook, I'm Red Powell, and there's not very many other Red Powells out there in the Facebook world. You can also check out my page, The Worthiest Adversary, on Facebook, where I also have a blog where I've actually got a couple out of LVO and recent events that I'm going to put up a couple more articles. And so if you're keeping track of the competitive Warhammer 40k community or just Warhammer at large, you should see some of that. People can feel free to reach out to me whenever. The U.S. Army Esports has a Discord that you can search for that has a ton of information in their information channels. They do not have at least that I'm aware of right out the gate, they don't have a website that has all the information. But again, if you have any questions whatsoever, Red Powell on Facebook, look me up, send me a message. I'll gladly respond, and I look forward to talking to whoever has questions.
Well, dude, have a great rest of your night.
You too, Paul. Thanks, man.
We'll talk soon.
Yep, see ya.
FTN is brought to you by Bell of Lost Souls. Check out www.bols.org for the best daily hobby articles on the web.
Hey everybody, we are back again. Thanks for hanging in here for this mega show. We're running short on time, so we're going to cover Sisters of Battle, the Gene Stealer cults, and the Tau in the next episode. I know I've been promising the redo or the follow up to the Sisters of Battle show, but I promise that we'll be back. Sister Act 2, back in the habit. Next week.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, there's a Sister Act 2. I was like, that's something. I remember that show. Whoopee.
So Adhesive. So I'm building this display for Adepticon, and it's a big team tournament, and the display is, always supposed to be epic, and it's one of the showcases of the event. Like people get to see whatever. And we try to compete on that level every year. Been more successful in some years than others, but we always try to put in the best effort. And I'm building it's a 4-part display that it's going to stack up. It's going to each section is like 1.5 feet, almost 2 feet tall, and they'll stack up to be 6 feet or a little bit more or whatever. I'm building it as I go, and I want it to be solid. I actually want to be able, it's built in sections to be able to mail it. I can mail it in FedEx or UPS or whatever, and I want it to be solid. So I've been doing this investigation about what are the best adhesives to use to stick some of these materials together. So the materials, it's a varying thing. It's plastic, it's wood, it's insulation foam, it's, different types of plastic, some metal in some cases, what to use to make all this work. I have not been able to find great tutorials on explaining what I'm trying to do, because no one is doing much of this. I mean, you see people how to build dioramas and how to build, those kind of things, but what can be sturdy enough to put it in a box and mail across the country? So you find things like, by the way, and Adam had to drop, so it's just me and Thomas right now. Adam will be back next week when we're talking about some of this stuff, but it's awfully late over there for him too. So thanks for hanging in for as long as he did. So back to adhesives. You still with me, Thomas?
I'm still with you.
All right. So there's this stuff out there called E6000. This is stuff you can get. All this stuff is local from hardware stores or whatever, but it's used as a really good adhesive for things like jewelry making and I guess some other things. So I got some, and I'm gluing this plastic, like grading materials used for like needlepoint or knitting, or I don't know. I'm not a fiber arts guy.
I know what it is. My wife used to make a lot of jewelry stuff, so I know exactly what you're talking about. So I know what I'm now going to hear the horror story of what you've done with it.
Well, so this stuff, no, you can use this stuff because it looks, if you stick it on things, it gives that kind of like, you can paint it to look like metal or whatever. You know, it gives you some texture on something. I was just using this as the roof, the ceiling tiles or whatever of one of the sections. You know, put little lights and stuff in it and stuff. I used the E6000 to glue that to the piece of wood that's going to be the roof for this one section. And I was planning on gluing other things to foam that it's also part of the structure. But I used a piece of the pink foam to spread out the E6000. It's just a scrap piece of the pink foam to spread out this stuff before I stuck the grading to it. Sure enough, I come back about a minute later, and that E6000 has completely dissolved the pink insulation foam. Like down to a nub, completely dissolved it. It was almost a horror show. So basically, don't use E6000 if you're working with pink insulation foam.
Well, it's kind of like it's got a solvent in it. So anything with a solvent in it's going to melt that foam. It's kind of the same thing why you can't shoot spray paint on pink insulated foam that you've done for terrain and stuff like that. So it's very similar to where it has that property of something in it, which means that's why it proceeded to go bad on you.
Yeah, it was real bad. So the next cautionary tale of adhesives is there's this adhesive called barge cement. This is very popular with cosplayers because it's incredibly strong and also somewhat flexible. You can put it on and then allow it to kind of like get tacky, let it dry a little bit, either with a heat gun or, let over time. And then you put barge cement on both sides of the material and stick the stuff together, and then it creates a super strong, basically permanent, but somewhat flexible bond. Spoiler alert, it also eats foam. It eats insulation foam. That's really the key element here. Is that one of the structural components that I'm doing is insulation foam because I wanted to be able to hollow out sections of it pretty easily because I'm going to be inserting some lighting and like stained glass windows and some other types of effects in this, and so I wanted something that I could easily cut channels and cut sections out of that I could do after it was built. Like if I needed extra space to work around and I could hollow out some stuff, but still give me some kind of structural integrity and add some bulk to certain areas, and also be easy for me to work with. Like I'm not great with working with wood, but I can carve up foam pretty easily. I mean, let's also get past the fact that most foam carving stuff looks really sketchy. I mean, I've never had it go bad on me, but it just looks like it's made out of parts you'd see in a prison. I don't know.
It's a weird one because so normally when you're doing any kind of that insulation and everything else, the real trick if you want to keep messing with it and do stuff with it is get a good thick latex paint spray. So you go get an air spray or whatever else and just shoot it with a latex spray paint. It'll lock it. And then at that point in time, you can glue it all you want because the latex spray paint will coat it and lock it in. And then you don't have to worry about ever losing, melting it because, oh God, it's going to melt. The other weird thing on the melting thing, which is also really funny about that foam, is that melted foam is also a very strong adhesive. So you could back in the day when you used to do metal models, you could take a bit of the foam, put super glue on it, it'll activate, put them together, and it'll bond to the two pieces of metal like a pewter thing together, and it's super, super, super strong.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean, you just wouldn't think of that. So that's why it's always fun. I was like, I know exactly what you did.
So what I found that works really well sticking this foam together and doesn't melt it is Gorilla Glue. The stuff that says it bonds to everything, but there's some problems with using this too. It doesn't set up quickly at all, and it also expands. So that's the secret with a Gorilla Glue is that it expands and it fills in all the cracks to get a better bite, a better hold. So it really does do exactly what it says it's supposed to do, but it's not without, if you just put two pieces of foam together with some Gorilla Glue, you would come back to have that foam be misaligned. So you've got to clamp it down, or have it be heavy enough. I guess technically if there's weight involved, then it would stick where it is, but the expansion wouldn't shift your stuff around. But if you're using and that's what I use Gorilla Glue, and you got to clamp it. It does not set. It adds takes time to your project because you have to wait for it to set up and finish expanding before you can move on to the next step.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not easy doing. So if there's a better way, somebody please tell me what's up. I'm anxious to hear it, but I've been using Gorilla Glue and the other things, the E6000s and the barge cements or whatever, know the materials that you're working with, because some of these adhesives, they're chemicals. Like, they work so well because they're dangerous chemicals. I mean, use it with supervision. Maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What you're saying is Paul needs an adult.
I did, man. And I've got a chisel. I can't even remember why I got this chisel, but it's a chisel, and it's solid. Like, it does exactly what it's supposed to do. It's got these weird, like one side of it has about 1.5 inches of like serrated stuff on there. I'm not quite sure what that's for. The thing is heavy. I've cut myself with it like 3 times.
I've cut myself like just don't talk about what I've done.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Look, I shouldn't be doing this unsupervised, but yet I'm an adult and get to do this.
And you're shipping it, right? You're saying you're gonna ship it to Adepticon?
Yeah. I've done some science on like what's a good
done science.
Yeah. Done science. Well, I mean, here's my science. I went and bought a box and even got the like pre-planned out like how much it's going to cost for an average weight of what I expect for this box to ship up there. So everything's within tolerance and spec, and you know, I'm going to build to the box specifications is what I'm doing.
It's like what we do for this game. And it's like, you know, like what's funny is I understand everything. I understand everything. It's like, I know why you're doing this. I understand completely what's the factor on this and why this needs to be the way it is. Like, no, I understand. I completely understand. And you have everyone else, like you talk to anyone else and say, you're doing what? I'm like, it's like, look, man, I'm doing this project. Let's leave me alone.
Yeah. So I went to the FedEx store and I talked to the guy. And I got the box, and we actually showed me all the boxes. He told me what the tolerance was for if it's pushing, like the stuff can't push out, but so much at the box or whatever. So I know what my wiggle room is. I'm doing everything to fit within the box that we've chosen, boxes that we've chosen.
That's so funny.
But I think when I was looking around for this adhesive stuff, like what to use, tutorials on how to use it, you just don't find. At least I did not find a good tutorial out there on telling me what melts what. And, I think that, hopefully somebody gets some benefit from this if they take on a project like this.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's really odd. So you would say anything with some kind of ability to solvent or something else that isn't like, the only glue that doesn't melt foam is like the white Elmer's glue, the wood glue. That doesn't melt foam because of how it's set up. But anything with some kind of solvent or something else in it is bad news. So it's going to wreck it. So that's the best way to know. And anything else, like anything with that will do bad stuff to it. So, which is always hilarious.
Well, test on a piece. I mean, that's really, I mean, you hear it all the time. Like, you see things like, test to see if this, in a small corner of your room before, you do the whole thing or whatever. Like, do that for real, because, I mean, I came dangerously close to wrecking a whole week's work on something because I just didn't do that. Like I just coincidentally used it to spread the E6000. I thought this was going to be the wonder adhesive that was going to, but no, it would have eaten all the work that I'd done.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it's just like, and you're like, oh crap, like no.
I just came back looking at it, want to know if the adhesive was setting up or whatever, and it had eaten that whole piece of foam. Anyway,
so bad. You're just
then I tried the barge cement, and it certainly did. It just melted where you stuck it. But barge cement is actually really good if you're working with EVA foam.
Yeah.
Like the format material foam to make anything. Barge cement works really well working with leather. Barge cement is also super good.
I mean, it's crazy how much this cosplay stuff has really brought these weird stuff in that's ability to do this kind of like they're able to I watched some other stuff and you're like, you can do all kinds of crazy cutting and foaming stuff and rebuilding stuff, and it doesn't it's not like it's crazy hard. It's work, but it's not end of the world crazy hard to try to get it done. So I find it really interesting what we've seen starting to come up, especially from a cosplay standpoint and everything else.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some of the stuff is just using good materials, sharp knives and whatever. I mean, again, I'm probably the worst example of that. Look at my cut up hands right now.
Look, I'm not smart. It's all right.
Yeah,
I already told you my horror story of somehow gluing my thigh to my calf. So you know what? I'm not someone that can look be like feel like like I'm obviously better than you for whatever not dumb stuff. Or what was it? I told you I glued my teeth to my lips. So I'm not a smart person,
There you go, Internet. Do better than us.
And
come back next week if you haven't already done so. Please like and subscribe and all that stuff to the show. It really means a lot to us. Please leave us a 5-star review. You don't have to even leave a comment, but a 5 stars would be awesome in the various places that you can leave that kind of stuff. That's how other people find us, and one of the ways it works its way through the algorithms and stuff. We really, really appreciate it.
Oh, sure, and it give you a chance to chit chat and everything else. I always like coming on these things when I get time, and I like to. I'm a little bit of a talker most of the time.
Yeah, Thomas. Thanks for joining us this week. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you. And again, everyone, come check out The Bulls Open. So check it out.
We'll see y'all soon.
Make my day.